other messenger. How do I do that? Why can't I do that? Inbox. There it is. Okay. Lacey, not. So her name is Lacey.
Lacey. Okay.
Yeah, it's Lacey. Um, but yeah, she'll be coming on with us really soon. So here is some of her music, actually. I think, yeah. So Lacey Lombard is her name, and she Lacei is what she goes by.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, she's
Neat. What does she play? What type
um
of instrument or all
she
instruments?
sings. She sings. Oh,
Thanks. Okay.
I don't have Spotify. I have it on my phone. I was able to listen to it on my phone, but I guess I can't do it on my laptop. Um, but yeah, it sounded like almost like a rock. Um, when I listened to see the songs that I originally looked up were on MySpace, and she just sent me the Spotify thing. I don't have Spotify on my computer, and I don't remember what my password is, so I can't log into it. But I do have it on my phone. But yeah, it was good. It was really good.
I wonder where she is. I'll have to ask her.
Yeah, she's. I don't remember where she's probably in LA, I would assume. Uh,
Probably. Yeah.
but
That.
yeah, I don't know.
How old is she?
She's in her young 20s. I don't remember exactly,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't her because I connected with a teenager, I think who was 16, maybe a couple years ago, 15 or 16. So that wasn't her.
Oh, must not have been her. Yeah, it's not often that we meet people that are, that young with this. So for
No,
sure.
it's really rare, super
Yeah.
rare. Or maybe they need to form a young person's like a young adult group or a
Yeah,
teenage
that
or
would be
young adult
good.
group
That would be good.
because
I mean, it's difficult even being in your 30s having it when they tell you that, all the medication is for people that are over 65 and that's primarily who they've ever used it for. Like, I mean, it's been a long time since I was diagnosed, but still even, when I was, they were like, "Well, we don't know the long-term effects of the hydria." And now my hematologist says that it's perfectly safe, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
But a lot of people are, I mean, it causes skin cancer. It can cause skin cancer, melanoma. One of the guys, he's a doctor, um, and that's why one of the reasons he switched to Pegasus, the pegylated
Yeah.
interferon, was because he developed skin cancer, I think, multiple times.
Wow.
So and it's destroying your bone marrow. I mean, that's how it just gets rid of the bad platelets, is it destroys your bone marrow. So if you start on it young, it can transition
Yeah.
into the
Into
leukemia, into
yeah.
I
Or
forgot the,
even just myelofibrosis is supposed to be much worse than ET,
yeah,
and it can change to that or PV. So
yeah.
yeah, man, I
My,
really hate that chemo has to be so damaging at the same time. Like if it's supposed to heal, I mean, I do understand that it were like when my son had the Ewing sarcoma tumor in his throat,
mhm,
um, or his neck. It wasn't actually in the throat. It was in the spinal area, but they used the chemo and it did make him sick. It did make his immune system break down, but it did shrink the tumor enough that they could remove
mhm.
it. Um,
Good, good.
so, it did serve its purpose for sure. It did what it
Right.
was supposed to. It shrunk the tumor, but it also broke down his immune system. And for a very extended period of time, we're more than a year
Mhm.
out. And his last blood work, his numbers are still not back to normal ranges. He still doesn't have the full white cells and red cells and
Mhm.
neutrophils and all these things. They're not all at the right levels that they should be. So, obviously, that's got, some long term issues, and now he's worried about ever having children and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but
It's Thankfully he's young, so
yeah,
hopefully it didn't do as much damage. My mom
he's a
had
pretty
breast
good
cancer.
healer. So
Okay.
he's got time to heal too. It's just my biggest fear is it coming back because Ewing sarcomas like to come back in the lungs, and he's he kind of he vapes now, but he was a very heavy smoker before when he first was diagnosed. So that always scares me. But yeah, he's young. He's got a lot of time to heal, you know, where
Right,
someone who's older,
right.
like you said, your mom, I think you were just,
She had breast cancer, but she was, I think when she was diagnosed when she was probably 74. And she had chemo and not, she didn't take as many treatments as they recommended. I think she took like maybe a third of the treatments.
okay.
It just destroyed her. It destroyed her body. She's, you know, she's never been the same, and she has so many problems. And so that kind of reinforced in my mind that I'm going to do everything I can and I know hydroxyurea is a really mild one, and it's better than a lot of them, but still it's hard for me to get past
I know.
seeing what mom went through, and you know, it's chemo, and I just try to avoid it as long as possible.
I agree. I mean, you know, I've talked to several people that are on it, as far as the
Mhm.
Hydrea, and you know, I've talked to a few that haven't really had much as far as side effects. Now, they were recently
Mhm.
prescribed it, so it's maybe, you know, who knows after a while how they feel. My one lady friend who lives here in Illinois, they put her on it and it worked for a little while, and then they had to bump up the dose. So then every other day she was doing double doses, and she's
Mhm.
just exhausted all the time.
Wow.
She's got no
Wow.
energy. You know, her immune system obviously isn't as strong as it once was, because, you know, it does break down all those, you know, natural killer cells that we have. So, and
Right.
our blood levels that are there to help fight that kind of stuff off. So yeah, I mean, it just, if I have to, if my platelets are over a million repeatedly for several months, I probably
Mhm.
will be considering doing something like that at some point. I'm
Mhm.
hoping I don't have to get to that, you know. I mean,
Right.
I'm hoping I can continue to manage it naturally, because I feel so much better nourishing my body's ability to heal
Mhm.
itself and making my body stronger, because that's not just going to help me with my ET. That's going to help me avoid all kinds of sickness and disease, you know,
Right.
versus the other option, which is to take the Hydrea and then have your immune system broken down, have a lack of energy, and just barely be trying to maintain. I don't want to be,
Right.
you know, just getting by. I want to be able to be thriving, you know, instead of just surviving. You know, that's really where I'd like to
Mhm.
be. And I just personally feel a lot better about trying to nourish my body with as many natural things that God's given us right here on this earth,
Mhm.
than to try to go to some type of a I get it, you know, chemicals are made right here on earth too, but still they can break down your system. And, you know, I just, after seeing what it's done to my son, and, you know, after being with my grandmother for her last 15 days when she was passing, just everything that she went
Mhm.
through, I really don't have as much faith in the Western medical system as I should. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't either. I do not either. In fact, I haven't been to my doctor in 6 months. I need to find another one, you know. I'm kind of done with the whole allopathic.
yeah.
And I really am. And it's since my daughter had problems when she was 6, she's now 17. But that kind of what woke me up to the problems that that system has.
Yeah.
And there's so much knowledge out there that we're not getting
Yeah.
about remedies that's been suppressed. And I keep praying that these cancer cures will be released. I know they're there.
Oh, they
And
are for sure.
there. I
I
know
mean,
they're there. They're suppressed.
you know, even just in like this little cannabis world, you know, that I'm
Mhm.
so knowledgeable on, like, you know, there's things like right now when you see that the US government has cannabis as a Schedule 1, which
Mhm.
is, you know, like the worst possible drug out there. Schedule 1 is the highest level. Like, so it's up
Mhm.
there with, like, you know, heroin and crack cocaine and all these really bad drugs,
Right.
methamphetamines and things like that. Um, but yet the US government actually holds a patent on the curative properties of cannabis. It holds a patent on, you know, the anti-inflammatory and, you know, all these curative
Mhm.
properties, because they spent 100 years where they would only spend money on research studies trying to prove it to be damaging to the human body. They
Mhm.
were trying so hard. As a matter of fact, one of the studies they did, they put these monkeys with gas mask type things on where they just pumped smoke into their faces to try to
Oh my
prove that smoking
God.
cannabis was bad. Well, they weren't able to get any oxygen. So of course they were going to have adverse effects, because,
Right.
you know, I mean, you just tortured these poor animals. So, you know, that's why a lot of this is, oh, trust the science, trust the science. Well, science is all about variables. Science is
Hmm.
all about how you set up the test. And
Right.
one little variable can change the whole outcome to whatever you want it to be. And a lot of science, when you really start digging into it, has been suppressed over the, and I'm not talking about just cannabis. I'm talking about cancer treatments and all these things. A
Hmm.
lot of things have been suppressed, and a lot of knowledge, they don't want it out. Like there's a drug out there. It's not even a drug. It's a plant in the coffee family called kratom.
Oh yes, yes, I've
Yeah.
heard of.
Kratom
Yes.
works so good for pain, but guess what? It competes with the opioid industry. So
Hmm.
they're going to try to make it Schedule 1 just like cannabis. They're going to try to shut it down. Why? Because all these big opioid companies with all this crazy opioid epidemic that we have going on are all going to lose out. They're already losing out because, with cannabis coming into all these states, the opioid use has gone down significantly in every single state that has cannabis, because cannabis can help kill pain and it can
Right.
help wean from opioids, and so can kratom. But kratom is the next big enemy. So you're going to
Hmm.
see them try to shut that down and bastardize it and make it sound real dangerous. And certainly anything can be abused. You
Right.
can drink too much
Right.
alcohol and die from it, but it's still legal. We still have the adult choice to decide whether we want to have that alcohol in our system and how much. And we
Right.
don't all make the best decisions about it, but it's still legal in a free country, and yet,
Mhm.
and that's why you're seeing cannabis start to open up, because people know it's not dangerous. It
Right.
cannot kill you. It does not control the areas of the brain, which is the brain stem, that
Mhm.
control the heart and lungs. Cannabis does
Right.
not affect those areas. So you can eat as much cannabis as you want. And you might feel like you're going to die if you eat too much, but you're not gonna, it cannot
Gonna
physically
go
kill
to
you.
sleep.
Right, you sleep real good, but it's not gonna kill you. And so yeah, there's just so many things like that, and the cannabis world's what really opened my mind to it. I sort of knew after my grandfather beat cancer 3 times without doing any chemo or radiation that
Wow.
these things were possible. He's actually my step grandfather. He's my dad has a daughter, so I have a sister who have different moms, and it's
Mhm.
her mother's mom and dad. Now, I grew
Okay.
up knowing them as my grandparents because my dad was married to this woman for like 15, 16 years. So, to me, they're still my grandparents. I don't really
Right.
care that there's not a blood
Sure.
relation there. But yeah, he has had colon cancer, I believe, 3 times, and liver cancer once. And so
Wow.
he did have part of his colon removed in a surgery many years ago. I think he was in his 40s or 50s when he had that done. And then, over the years, he got it again. But my stepmom has her herbal doctrines,
Oh.
ex-stepmom, I should say.
Mhm.
But she has her herbal doctrines. And so she had him on something called transfer factor, which is basically like your own T cells, that help fight off viral infections and things like that. It
Mhm.
boosts the T cells. And then she had him on high doses of probiotics. He was taking like
Mhm.
10 pills 10 times a day for 10 days.
Oh my
So
gosh.
very high doses of probiotic
Wow.
bacteria. And then I believe, what else? She had him on a special diet too, where he was a little more low
Mhm.
carb and less sugar. And
Mhm.
he's also, I believe he's got a type of diabetes, because she always has to go over and give him an insulin shot in his butt every once in a while. She's a
Mhm.
surgical nurse, so she's able to do a lot of that type of stuff. But
Mhm. Mhm.
um, but after watching him get through his cancer
Mhm.
all, multiple times, and then recently having the liver cancer, and again, being able to put it into remission, so it's still present in his body, but it's asleep. It's in his He's like 86 or 87 years old
Wow.
now, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he still goes turkey hunting and wins the championship every year in West Virginia. He's like, he's like,
Oh my
he fell
gosh.
out of a tree stand like 3 or 4 years ago, deer hunting, and broke his wrist and his arm and crawled to his truck, which who
Oh,
knows how far away that was, but drove
one
himself.
tough guy. He's tough.
He's a tough little guy. Yeah, he's a small man too. He's not a big guy. But yeah, he's tough as nails.
It's inspiring to hear those stories because, you know, there's hope. There's hope for us.
He's a big part of the reason I chose not to go on
Yeah.
chemo. He's a really big
Mhm.
part of that reason.
So he didn't do chemo.
No.
Wow.
I think for his liver cancer, he did do one treatment. And then after that treatment went on natural.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
his wife, my step grandmother, she, um, they're always trying to, every time you go for your checkup, they're always trying to, oh, well, we want to put you on some cholesterol medicine, or oh, we want, they're always selling drugs. And so,
Yeah.
I guess
Mhm.
her cholesterol was a tiny bit high the one time, and she loves to tell the story about how she told the doctor, you give me some time and I'll get this down on my own. And he's like, fine, I'll give you 6 weeks or whatever it was. And she went home and she took the red yeast rice
Mhm.
and she got it down on her own. And
Good
and
for
she's like, "You're not
her.
putting me on that shit." She
I
didn't want me on
it is
meds.
crap. My
So,
parents are both on it, and I'm like, well, if you're gonna have, if they're just. I try to educate them, but they're just so stuck in the.
what's sad is when you have someone that you love, and I have this happening right now. I have it in multiple areas of my family where, they just trust so much in the mainstream narrative, in
Mhm.
authority, in what they've been trained to believe,
Mhm.
and we've
Yeah.
all been trained to believe Western medicine is the best, but when you really take a step back and look at it as a whole, and you realize that when you go into the doctor, they're not asking you about anything else going on in your life. And we know that
Mm-mm.
there's things that affect our health that are way above and beyond just the biological things you can see right now in front of you. It's beyond a
Right.
blood test, beyond any of that. There are emotional things, there are, just all kinds of different factors. Your diet, things
Mhm.
going on in your life, stress factors, those are all playing a role in your health. And we know
Mhm.
that, but yet when you go to Western medicine, you don't see that. You see them, giving you a pill, giving you a pill, giving you a pill. And then when that one gives you a side effects, they give you another one. And then it seems like
Mhm.
this vicious cycle of pharmaceuticals. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily something that's addressing the root of your problem and helping you heal from there. And I just feel like healthcare needs to go to the next level. We've got all this great technology,
Mhm.
we're so advanced as a society, but yet we're just treating symptoms with pills and, and we're trained as people to think, oh, well, quick fix, that's what life's
Mhm.
supposed to be about. We're so in tune to this like quick, instant gratification society where we want to just, oh, go to the doctor and get a pill and make me feel better right away. Well,
Mhm.
sometimes in natural medicine, when you start your regimen, you're going to feel a little bit worse before you feel better because your body has to let its own system kick in to start fighting off whatever it is you're fighting. And so
Mhm.
we're so accustomed to this quick fix that if even those that are open-minded enough to try something natural,
Mhm.
sometimes they won't stick with it because you
Yeah.
sometimes will feel worse before you feel better. So and I
Mhm.
understand that that's nature working the way it has to, and
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
I'm patient and I allow that to happen because I truly believe in natural medicine.
Me
I've
too.
seen it,
Uh,
I've just seen so many examples of it working in my life, besides Grandpa Boys, besides,
mhm.
my own situation, I mean, there's just so many examples. I mean, just patients that would come to the dispensary that would be on 10, 12, 15 different medications, and within a few months, we're down to one or two and we're
Wow.
feeling fantastic and
Mhm.
we're sleeping better than they ever had in their life. And that's just cannabis.
Yeah.
Oh, God only knows if they would actually get on herbs and start changing their diet, how much more their life would improve. That's just one little factor. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've just seen so many examples of positivity coming out of natural medicine where I
Mhm.
don't see that coming out of Western medicine so much. I see people coming home with, more side effects and more issues and
Mhm.
issues from the pill that they got. And it just feels like a downward spiral. And
Mhm.
I just
That's
don't
what.
understand why more doctors aren't speaking out. I like Dr. Mercola a lot. He has a
I
lot
love him.
of
Oh,
good information.
that guy changed my life. I mean, that's how I educated myself on natural
Such good
medicine.
information. His website is just a drove
It's
of great stuff.
amazing.
Yeah.
And all he sources everything. He sources everything, it's not just his opinion. These are research articles. You
Yeah.
can go them and show your doctor, hey, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy, and he is so demonized.
Yeah.
I mean, they hate him because he speaks the truth.
Right. I
And he
know.
makes him look bad.
Yeah. I know.
He is amazing. I mean, no, I owe him everything. I mean, without him, I would probably still be completely in the dark. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, he does.
it's
He is such a
amazing.
wealth of information. His website is fantastic, and he's always, what's funny is his offices are 10 minutes down the street from me. Yeah,
Really?
the Dr. Mercola Institute's right here off Barrington, and it's
Right.
Higgins and Barrington Road right over there, and I live right on Barrington Road. So yeah, I'm
Wow. Oh,
minutes
you're so
from him.
lucky.
Yeah. And he's got a huge center there. When it first opened, it was just his little office, and now it's like this whole big like plaza over there because now they have all the supplements that they sell and everything too.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's local, and I've actually never been to see him as a patient. I've been there like for business networking things in the past,
Mhm.
but I've not actually been there ever as a patient. I would love to do it one day, but my God, he's got some good information, and
And it's all
I have learned a
free.
lot from him. Yeah, totally.
It's free of
Yeah,
charge. I
yeah,
mean, he's just amazing. I'm just
yeah.
so thankful. And yeah, I love him. He
Yeah,
is
Dr.
just, and
Mercola is
he,
fantastic. I love watching his videos and just learning from him because
Mhm.
he's got so much good stuff to share and just on so many different subjects. So,
I know. He must never sleep. He
yeah,
must never sleep. He
for
must
real.
read so, I mean, yeah, he's
Yeah,
just amazing.
yeah, he
And
really is.
I don't know how old he is, but he's got to be in his 60s.
I would
Is
think,
he?
yeah, I would think
60s?
so.
Yeah.
50s or 60s, yeah, because he's been around forever.
You know, for,
He's been around for a really long time. I've, you know, read his articles and watched his videos for, oh my gosh, probably before I was even diagnosed.
Mhm.
Because I've just always been into natural medicine. I'm just sort of like a hobby in my life, that things I've always been interested in. I'm always reading articles about, diet and natural medicine, and I should have just went and got my damn herbal doctorates a long time
You
ago.
should have. Well, it's never too late, Jessica.
Well, it's funny
I
because
found out
everybody
that
I know that
myself.
wants to do any kind of natural healing, they all reach out to me and ask for my advice. And I'm like, look, I know a lot about cannabis and I definitely know a lot about herbs, but I'm not by any means a medical professional.
Right.
But it's funny how many people rely on me for that. So, because they know that I'm this crazy hippie chick who knows all about herbs and, so it's sort of become my identity, I guess. But yeah,
It's never too late. Really. I mean, just
yeah.
think how you would probably breeze through it really
I would at
easily.
least have a good base knowledge. Yeah, for sure. I really would. Yeah. I've actually looked into a few different programs. There's the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Arizona. They have like a plethora of really cool classes on all different things. I couldn't pick one. I like, wanted to do all of it. So I've looked at that one. They have some online courses, and then they have some in-person courses you can go to there too. And then there's another place I found. Um, oh shoot, what is it called? Is it Quest? It's something with a Q, and they're based out of Hawaii. And I was like, shit, send me
Mhm.
to school there.
Right. Oh, could you
Just take a year off
imagine?
and go to
Wow.
Hawaii. I would love to do
It'd
that.
be amazing.
Oh my God, would it ever? I would love, love, love to be in Hawaii.
I know. Oh, all the plants too. You could probably do just an amazing field study out there with all the
Well, and
plants.
imagine how much easier it would be to go on like a raw food diet when you live in Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they have such a plethora of like farmers markets and fresh
Yeah.
fruit and vegetables. Like you just never run out of that over there. Where here, it's like you have to pay a really high premium to get any kind of tropical fruits or,
Mhm.
fruits and vegetables. I mean, my God, it's -14 today here. So, like, we don't have
Good
much
luck
growing
finding.
season in Illinois for sure. And so everything has to be imported. And so, yeah, it's really expensive to try to even just buying organic is just really expensive. So, and there I could grow year round, I do grow my own garden here, but I have to start it indoors in grow lights and get them big
Mhm.
enough that they'll actually make it to blooming and harvesting something before we get our cold spell because it's so quick. So I have to like start indoors, move it outdoors, and then try to just, keep up with it through
Wow.
the summer. But our summer's so short here. So I'm really, really wanting to move away. I was just browsing the internet the other day and I found this in Destin, Florida. There's a guy selling his stand up paddleboard business. like $38,000. He comes with the truck and the paddle boards, and he'll give you instructions. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just move to Florida and become a stand-up paddleboard instructor, and I can just be in the ocean.
Oh,
Best thing ever.
that sounds amazing.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that
It moved from
38,000,
Chicago.
that sounds like a deal.
I know, right? That sounded like
Yeah.
it was relatively affordable. I don't know how successful that business is, or how well they do. You would obviously need a marketing budget to really, do something substantial, but man, would that be fun? That would be so
That
cool.
would be fun.
And I
Wow. Well,
paint on
we,
the off time and sell my paintings when I'm not
oh, do you paint?
paddleboarding. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
paint?
Yeah. I
Really?
just started during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I just started during lockdown because I was watching these poor painting videos, and I kind of got hooked on them. And then one day I was at Target, and they had these tiny little canvases for like 75 cents each, and then the paints weren't very expensive, and I was like, whatever, let's try this, and then I sort of got hooked on it, and now I'm doing lots of art. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah. Well,
It,
my
it,
business hasn't been doing much, so it's sort of keeping me occupied.
you have plenty of time to learn
Yeah.
a new hobby.
I do, yeah. So it's been nice though. I really love it because, I've been a single mom since I was 18 years old, and I was the oldest of six kids. So I was always the live-in babysitter before that. So I never really got a chance to explore my creative side. I've always just had to
Mhm.
do whatever job, would make me the most money for the amount of time I was there, and worked with my schedule because I was trying to raise two kids, and I never got child support from my older son's dad ever. So it was just me.
Wow.
And so I was working two jobs a lot of times. I was working sales during the day and bartending at night, or, whatever. I blew insulation in attics for a while. I've done a lot of different jobs. But it was always, for me, my focus was about making money, just
Right.
how to do to take care of
Supporting.
the kids, like
Yeah.
being support. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so now all of a sudden, my oldest son is 25 and engaged to be married this fall and living with his girlfriend. And my youngest one decided to move in with his dad a few months ago. And he's working at his dad's company doing bricklaying on chimneys. And so all of a sudden I have like an empty house. It's just me and the dog and my fiance, and now all of a sudden I can like sort of do what I want, not what I have to, so
Nice.
so painting has kind of been part of that. It's like, oh wow, I have a creative side. I didn't even know I had a creative side. This is cool.
It's been suppressed. It's
Yeah, it's really been good. I mean, when I'm painting, it's like I'm not thinking about politics or any of the world's problems or my blood disorder. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm not worried about the dishes in my sink. I could care less. I'm painting. It like puts me in a state of zen. I love it. And,
Mhm.
sometimes they turn out awesome, and sometimes they look really cool when you pour them, but they dry like crap and they crack. And, there's a lot of trial and error, but I mean, it's still just really fun. And I've found a lot of, I don't know what's the word, but it's just been comforting to me, like going
Mhm.
through
Mhm.
all this negativity with the COVID lockdown. I mean, there's enough negativity in our own personal lives as it is. I'm sure we all like have
Yeah.
up to here with that. And then you add all this COVID lockdown and political bull crap and just
Yeah.
everything that's gone on in the last 2 years. And then I had a son with cancer the year prior to all this craziness. So it's just
Right.
been, I feel like I've just been beaten,
Yeah.
for the last 3 years. And it's like, it's been a little bit of reprieve. I guess that's the word I've been looking for. But yeah, it's been really beneficial to have
Good.
a hobby.
Good for
I never
you.
thought having a hobby would be so beneficial, but it really is. It's something I so look forward to. So
Awesome. And you can listen to your music or listen
yeah,
to, podcasts
I
or,
do. I do. I
you
listen to music most
um,
of the time, and
yeah.
just kind of zone out and make a mess and stain my good shirts and you know. But it's so fun. I just love it. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's been good. I definitely recommend finding a creative outlet. It's been really beneficial for me for sure. I definitely have enjoyed it. So,
I
but
started knitting. My daughter and I started knitting. I used to crochet as a kid. My
yeah.
grandma taught me, and I tried to relearn crochet, but it was so hard. And so we did knitting, and I never realized how easy it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. I thought it was hard. I thought it was something I would never, I thought it was harder than crochet,
Yeah.
but Oh my gosh, how easy. And I mean, just doing the basic knit stitch. I haven't learned any others, but yeah, that's been our creative outlet is knitting and starting to sew again.
Yeah, I took
Uh,
fashion design in high school, so I have a really clunky old brother sewing machine that I get out every once in a while, and it gets
mhm.
me angry every time I try to use it because it needs to be repaired.
Oh,
But for Halloween costumes or stuff like that, or just fixing somebody's pants or something real quick, I'll use it. But I do miss that too. That was something I really enjoyed when I was in high school was doing fashion design and
yes.
yeah.
Creating your own clothes and your
Yeah,
own
yeah. I would draw them up and, like, I mean, I'm really good at visualizing it, but putting it into fabric and actually sewing the seams all right is a little more challenging. But I'm sure if I, really got to put some time into it, I could probably do all right with it. My mom and I have always, just about every year, made our own Halloween costumes, but she refuses to
oh.
sew. She uses the hot glue gun for everything. So.
Does it stay together?
I mean, they do. I mean, she's got a couple of giant trunks up in the barn, and they're just filled with costumes we've made over the years. So, and we
Oh.
usually do like family themes, like we'll do the whole Addams Family or the whole Lion King or the whole, whatever
Mhm.
movie we're picking that year. We all sort of contribute and be a character from it most of the time.
Oh,
So,
neat.
yeah, my
Oh,
family's a little kooky when it comes to Halloween. We go crazy on Halloween. But it's a fun holiday,
it's
so
a fun holiday.
it
It
is.
really
It is.
is.
Yeah.
You know, really be
Well,
creative.
it looks like we're not going to get anybody else on this call today. So, um, but that's okay. I think we've had some pretty good conversation either way. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could talk all day with you about all this. I mean, there's just so much information and
well,
it's nice.
the herbs list you gave me was wonderful. It was really helpful. I mean, I haven't gotten all the way through it yet, but everything that I've looked up so far, they're all really beneficial. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping to have Dr. Nelson, she's the lady I was telling you
Mhm.
about, go over some of that stuff and tell me what her thoughts are on it. And she wasn't able to join us today, but she did say that she's going to try to come on to a future call. So
Good.
we're going to
Right.
try to get her on and get her feedback on what all we're doing and what she thinks is, good and maybe what isn't, because I don't want to be taking a bunch of stuff that isn't necessary either, just because I'm taking so much right now. It's
Yeah.
like, I just feel like I'm going over the top a little bit. I haven't even started the broccoli max stuff that I was telling you guys about in the
Hmm.
email. I have
Hmm.
it here. I just thought, I just started the spleen stuff. So I want to
Hmm.
wait and see what my platelet counts are because this weekend, or not this weekend, I'm sorry, early next week, I have to go for blood work. And then on Thursday, I have my hematology appointment. So I will have a better idea of where my platelets are then. And then I think after I've done that test, then I'll start the Brocomax so I can see how the broccoli is affecting things. Because I only just started like 2 weeks ago doing the spleen desiccated. So
I tried to find that, and it seems like you need a.
you have to buy it through a chiropractor or a naturopathic doctor.
Oh, do you
You,
have to be a patient of
I
theirs?
don't think so. Most of
No.
them will just let you buy whatever you need because they don't sell it. They standard process is pretty strict as far as like
Mhm.
they don't just want it on the shelves somewhere. They want a practitioner or somebody behind it so that when a patient comes in with questions about it, they know how to address that stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's why they have to put these like even the chiropractors and stuff, they have to go through a certain level of training before they
Mhm.
can even sell standard process because they're a higher level herb. I like
Okay.
their products. Their turmeric is really nice too. Um, I just was taking the Nature Sunshine because I think it's more milligrams of turmeric for your money, and I think that's why I
Mhm.
chose to stick with that one.
Mhm.
But recently, I went to go order my herbs again, and I was like, my God, these are like $37 a bottle, and I
Yeah.
need two of them to get me through the month, because I'm taking two in the morning, two at night, so I'm burning through
Mhm.
2 jars of it a month, and it's really expensive. And I'm like, man, do I want to spend another 75 bucks on just this turmeric? And so actually, I went ahead and made my own capsules again.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
gonna do that for just a little bit, just because financially I gotta like try to keep. And I
Yeah.
see, and I had to go back to buying my RSO from the dispensary because the stuff I have at home, I think I'm gonna turn it into topicals or something because it was extracted with isopropyl alcohol,
Mhm.
and I've learned what the difference is the ethanol. or the grain alcohol when you make your own cannabis extraction doesn't have as
Mhm.
much of that like alcohol flavor.
Mhm.
The isopropyl, it tastes like rubbing alcohol, and it's just so bleh, bitter,
You're not
potent.
supposed, I thought you weren't supposed to ingest isopropyl.
Well, this is a 99.9% pure. So like when you
Okay.
extract your cannabis, then you're actually I use this machine called the Source Turbo, and it basically vacuum seals. What you do is you wash your cannabis or your trim or whatever it is in this isopropyl mix, or you could do it in the ethanol or
Mhm.
the grain alcohol, like the what is that stuff called, Everclear.
Mhm.
So you can use one of those, and you kind of wash the cannabis in that alcohol mixture. You let it sit for 10-15 minutes. Some people let it sit for half an hour if they want to really get everything off of it. And then you basically strain all your plant material out, and then you take your
Mhm.
alcohol mixture and you put it into this Source turbo machine. It vacuum seals it and heats it very lightly to the point where it'll start to kind of bubble, and it boils off all the solvent. So then
Okay.
you're left with just the essential oil of the cannabis. The problem is, though, is that the isopropyl still really tastes like isopropyl, even though it's
Okay.
boiled all the way down to just the sticky cannabis
Mhm.
oil. It's just
Wow.
the flavor's horrible. And I've tried so many things and I usually, like I can handle the cannabis oils, no problem. But I'm used to an ethanol or a CO2 extracted RSO medicine, not this isopropyl that I tried to do myself at home. So I'm going to find
Okay.
another use for that, but I'm not taking it ingestibly anymore just because it's just so bad. And I used to tell myself, "Oh, shut up, it's medicine. You can deal with it," but
Yeah.
it's like
Good for
it's so bad. It's so terrible. I can't do it.
I bought this yesterday, and I don't know what I was thinking when I made my order online, but it's RSO,
Okay.
it's this, and it's 27
Full
to 1,
spectrum. Oh, that's beautiful. That's perfect. 27
27
CBD
to
to
1.
one. Yeah, that's great.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's totally fine. And that won't get you high at all. Like even if you accidentally take too much, you're going to be totally fine. The
But
the
is it gonna do anything with that such a low amount of
Yes,
THC?
because if you look on there, there's other
Mhm.
cannabinoids, right? You see some of the other ones
Right,
in there?
right. CBC, CBG, CBDV, CBDA.
Yep, that's good. That's all fantastic. So, I mean, I do take a certain amount of THC in mine, but
Mhm.
I also, again, I have a tolerance to THC, so it doesn't affect my daily function. For someone who's not used to THC, you want to start low there and then slowly taper your way up. And you only need to taper up if you're not getting any results on your platelet counts.
Mhm.
That would be
Mhm.
the only reason I would tell you to go ahead and up your THC. If you're getting results by using the full CBD, just stick with that. The big thing I think most people really need to understand when it comes to buying, I think people get confused when I start saying high CBD because they think, "Oh, I can just buy hemp." And like
Mhm.
if you're going to buy hemp, that's why I always tell people about that Receptor Naturals because
Oh, I love that.
they use full spectrum. There's
Yeah.
so many companies out there that are doing, I think Dr. Nelson sent me one called Vitalize, right? And they have all
Mhm.
this great marketing. Dr. Oz backs it up and blah, blah, blah. But Dr.
Mhm.
Oz backs up CBD in general. It's not that product that he's
Right.
saying is the best. It's because anybody can put CBD into a tincture and say, here you go, and claim all kinds of health benefits because there are a
Mhm.
lot of health benefits to it, right? But
Mhm.
the big difference is, and not that hemp is not a great thing. I mean, they certainly can make good products out of hemp, but here's your main difference. You've got hemp and you've got cannabis. They're two different plants in the same family. Very
Mhm.
much like the poppy that we grow in our garden to look pretty is different than the poppy that makes opioids, right?
Mhm.
They're in the same family. They look similar, but they are very different plants. So with hemp, it's really great as a textile. It works fantastic to make clothing and paper and ropes and even hemp plastics. Henry Ford built a car
Mhm.
out of hemp fibers and made a hemp plastic that was stronger than steel
Mhm.
and ran it on hemp fuel. So if you can Google that, Henry Ford made a hemp car. So as a textile, hemp is fantastic. It works great. The Civil War, all the soldiers' clothing was made from hemp.
Yeah.
There were ships in the harbors that the ship the metal of the ship rotted away and the hemp rope is still hanging there because that hemp
Oh,
is so strong. So, I mean, it's a fantastic fiber, but it produces a very, very, very small amount of CBD.
mm-hmm.
It does produce CBD, but a really small amount of it. Like you're talking about 4% CBD on average for a typical hemp plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where with a cannabis plant, over the last 100 years of prohibition, we've bred them to have higher THC because THC is what gets you high, and we were only
Mm-hmm.
growing for the illicit market because it was illegal. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got, almost 100 years of people trying to make it stronger and stronger and
Mm-hmm.
stronger, gearing toward the THC side of things when they're doing their crossbreeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that Charlotte's Web and all this has come out, and we know that there's major curative powers to CBD, they have taken the cannabis plant, not the hemp, but the cannabis plant, and bred it to have higher CBD.
Mm-hmm.
Those strains of cannabis, okay, Charlotte's Web, Cannatonic, um, gosh, there's just hundreds of them. But
Mm-hmm.
they're ACDC. I mean, there's all these different strains of cannabis that are super high in CBD and very low in THC. But because it's a cannabis plant versus a hemp plant, it's also producing CBN and CBG and CBC and THCA and THCV and all these other cannabinoids. There's over 100 identified cannabinoids right now, and they're still discovering new ones all the time. But those are super rich in cannabis, not so much in hemp. Hemp's going
Mm-hmm.
to produce just trace amounts of CBN
Mm-hmm.
because that's what happens when the plant dries and cures over time. Some of the CBD will turn to CBN. It'll have trace amounts of some of these other cannabinoids, but it's in such a small amount that you need about
Mm-hmm.
8 times the plant material of a hemp plant to get the same amount of CBD that you can get from one cannabis plant.
Wow.
Okay. So this is why there's a big difference between just buying a hemp-based CBD product and a
Mm-hmm.
cannabis-based CBD product. Now, the reason I always cite Receptra, right, is
Mm-hmm.
because yes, they are selling what they're calling a hemp-based CBD product that's full spectrum, but when you really start looking at their lab reports and you see how many other cannabinoids are present, you know that they're using a cannabis strain that they have bred to have such high CBD and low
Mm-hmm.
THC. And definitively, with the law, they consider the difference between hemp and cannabis 3%, 0.03% or more THC, they consider it cannabis. So even if it's a
Mm-hmm.
hemp plant, but it's
Wow.
producing a little bit more THC, they will consider that a cannabis plant. And vice versa. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
cannabis plant that's producing under 3% THC, legally it falls into the hemp category, even though biologically it is not a hemp plant. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
It is
Why?
crazy, but that's
That's
just the way the law is written. And so there's these loopholes where manufacturers of cannabis medicine can sort of get away with that. So
sure.
you can take a cannabis strain and grow it for the hemp market as long as you keep it under that 0.03
Mm-hmm.
THC. You're totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Receptor is. I'm convinced that's what they're doing. I don't know if they can legally claim that that's what they're doing because they could probably get in trouble, I'm assuming. But
Mm-hmm.
they do have a very high quality product. It does have a lot of other cannabinoids present in it. So that's why I like to recommend that one for people that don't necessarily have access to a dispensary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you do have access to a dispensary, I always suggest that you go and you find a cannabis based CBD medicine because you're going to have a broader spectrum of cannabinoids, flavonoids, and terpenoids that you don't
Mm-hmm.
have in hemp.
Okay.
And so that's why the high CBD cannabis based medicine is so much more powerful than just a high CBD hemp based medicine.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard it explained that way. That's a really good explanation. That
Thank you.
very clear explanation. Okay.
Yeah. So
But
that's
it's
why
all
I'm always
confusing.
It's very confusing. And when you throw all this marketing in there on top of it's too much. It's like I can understand why people would think, "Oh, I tried CBD and it didn't work for me." Because if you just try a distillate, which is just a single molecule CBD, you have no other cannabinoids, no other flavonoids or terpenoids or any of the natural occurring plant material in there. It is just a CBD distillate powder in a tincture.
Mhm.
And you're paying high prices for it. And then you get home and you go, "Ah, it doesn't really work that good." Well, that's because it's not the real medicine. It's not the
Right.
full plant material. Full spectrum is what everyone needs. And that's true whether you're buying a hemp based or a cannabis based. And don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, hemp based medicine has its place for rheumatoid arthritis and for, gastrointestinal issues. There's just so many things. Anxiety, panic disorder,
Mhm.
CBD made from hemp can totally work for people. It's not that it doesn't, it's just not as powerful as a cannabis based CBD strain.
Right.
The
Right.
cannabis based CBD strain is going to be much more powerful. So, for people that have more severe conditions, like what we have with our blood disorder, I always recommend that you go for something a little stronger, which is going to be the cannabis
Mhm.
based CBD.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
You get more of a curing property out of it. You have way more natural occurring chemical compounds that are beneficial in the cannabis based.
Well, what about now? I accidentally bought this product. It's raw. It's a 1-to-1 tincture, CBA to THCA 1-to-1, and I accidentally bought
Nice.
raw.
No, that's actually really good. So raw, what that means is that, and it's cool that that's their name too, because it really sums up what THCA and CBDA are. So when you first grow your cannabis plants and you harvest it,
Mhm.
pardon me, you end up with raw plant material. So CBD and THC are not in that form when you first harvest the plant. When it's
Mhm.
raw, it's THCA or the acid
Mhm.
form of THC. Same thing with
Okay.
the CBD, it's CBDA or the acid form of CBD. Now, when it's dried and cured, that converts over to CBD and THC. And
Okay.
that is partially why people smoke cannabis, because all the THCA converts to THC when you heat it. So when you
Mhm.
light that, joint or whatever, you're actually heating the cannabis and you're causing all the THCA to change to THC before it's entering your body. So you're getting more of that psychoactive component out of it by heating it. So with the THCA and the CBDA, you're keeping it in its raw form. You're not converting it. So you have zero psychoactive effect. Okay.
Okay.
No matter how much you take, you should not have any psychoactive effect because that THCA is not in the form of THC yet. It's not in its psychoactive form yet. It's still in its raw form.
Is
Now,
it giving, would it give me the same benefits?
yes, as a matter of fact, they have said in recent studies that THCA is 10 times more anti inflammatory than just CBD alone.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why I was like, ooh, this is good. Because that's
Oh,
why I've
good.
said, you've probably heard me say this in the past, that I've always wanted to juice cannabis. The reason
Yeah.
I want to juice it is so I can get the raw CBDA and THCA because those are hugely beneficial medically. And
Well,
there's,
it's interesting because when I went into this dispensary the first time, I think it was last year, the gentleman who helped me told me about his grandfather or his dad who had a blood cancer. It wasn't what we have, it was another one. But he said all his dad doesn't go to the doctor. All he does, well, he does go to the doctor, but he doesn't tell his doctor how he's basically cured himself. And that is, he puts leaves, he grinds them up and just eats them.
yeah, people put them in their salads. They throw
Yeah.
raw leaves in their salads and eat them that way. They juice it. I mean, think about when you go to Amsterdam. I mean, I've never been, but you hear the stories of people going to Amsterdam to those cafes. They're eating raw cannabis material, along with all the other goodies. I mean, everyone thinks of edibles as brownies and gummies, but I mean, that's the cooked version. So the cooked
Mhm.
version is going to be really psychoactive, where if you're eating
Right.
the raw plant material, you're not getting any psychoactivity, but you're getting a huge benefit of, just like you would juicing any other plant, really, but you're getting
Mhm.
all those acid forms of those cannabinoids, and you're getting all the flavonoids and the terpenoids as well. So yeah, juicing the cannabis trim is supposed to be very, very good for you. I don't know if you can juice the bud material, but I do know that
Mhm.
the leaves and stems are definitely juiceable. And I've heard multiple stories of people curing their own cancers with just juicing cannabis. So
Oh, right.
And it's funny because I had said like, oh, I can't wait to grow so I can juice my own cannabis. And I took all my trim off my cannabis plants and I froze it so that I would have fresh frozen. That's the best way to preserve it until you're ready
Mhm.
to use it. But then I took it and I turned it into that RSO medicine because I thought, oh, I need to turn it into medicine, you know? And so I just tried it with the trim first so that I didn't waste all my bud material trying to make medicine. So I
Mhm.
used all of that and now it's all gone and I don't have another crop going yet. So I'm like,
Oh,
shoot, now I'm not going to be able to juice for a while. But I do plan on getting another grow room going because in Illinois we can grow, medical patients can grow up to 5 plants that are over 5 inches tall. So I can
oh,
legally grow some of my own, and I did one batch, but I was learning, and so I that was sort of my experiment. Now that I have a little bit better idea what I'm doing, I'm going to set up two different lighting schedules and have the room split, and I've got a whole different setup I have to do to get it right. And once I get that all set up, I should be able to keep a continuous grow cycle going, and so then I'll have access to the trim all the time. All I got to do is go in there and trim a few leaves off, and I can go juice it, you know. So that'll be much
nice.
easier. But yeah, that raw is going to be really good. I'm interested to see how your body responds to that because it should be really beneficial.
I hope so. I
That
need to,
with the RSO combined, you got a
yeah.
really good selection there. I'm really happy with what you bought.
Okay. Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
I'm
Because
really
I thought
happy
I,
with it.
I thought I had done not a very good job in
No,
select.
you did
So
awesome, actually. If I could get my hands on raw here, I would buy it in a heartbeat, but we don't have any of that here.
you don't have any of that?
There's
Oh,
there's one company that makes a THCA tincture and it's like extremely expensive for 1 gram of
mhm.
it. I mean, I think it was 85 or 9, I don't know. It was somewhere between 85 and $120, I think, for just
Wow.
like 1 gram of it. And I couldn't justify doing that. So,
Wow. That's crazy. This was so reasonable. It was,
well, you're in California.
I know we've got to keep
Things are
living
so much more, when it comes to cannabis anyway. California and Colorado, things are so much more affordable. And Washington and Oregon are even way more affordable than both of those. So,
Mhm.
but as long as it's Schedule 1 and we can't have medicine cross borders, right?
Right.
Everything has to stay in one state. So
Right.
California luckily produces a lot of cannabis. So you guys have a plentiful supply at all times. So your demand is a little bit lower. So therefore your prices are lower. Here we only have 19 cultivation centers that have been serving the medical dispensaries for 5 years now. We opened up a whole bunch of new recreational facilities and didn't open any new cultivation. So our demand is super high, our supply is super low, our prices are through the roof. Where Oregon and Washington, they have way more growers than they have
Mhm.
dispensaries, and they have too much cannabis to sell. So you can go up there and get
Mhm.
like an ounce for $100. And
Wow.
here it's like, holy cow, you'd pay probably $500-$600 for an ounce in Illinois dispensary. I mean, I remember we were cutting people a deal at 420 when I was managing the dispensary back when the prices were more reasonable, and now they're way worse than they were when I was managing a dispensary. So it just is
I
what it
hope it
is.
improves for you guys because it's just,
No, I'm just gonna
you
move.
know,
It's okay.
are
Just getting
you
out of here.
seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've wanted out of Illinois forever. So I'm really looking forward to maybe getting my house fixed up enough that I can sell it and or rent it out and just getting out of Illinois. I need warmer
Good.
weather. I cannot do this negative temperature shit no more. I'm just done.
Yeah, I don't
Over it.
it's just crazy. I have to be outside.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm an outdoor person. I love to just be hiking or biking or just outdoors. I like sunshine. And not only do we have super cold weather here, but we don't get a lot of sunshine. We get a
I
lot of overcast. So I go tanning once a month or
um,
twice a month just to get some vitamin D. And I know that's not good for me, but at the same time, I just need sunshine in my life.
yeah.
So I think
Florida.
Colorado, Hawaii, or Florida are in my cards, I hope.
uh, yeah.
Somewhere with more
Well,
sun.
I vote Florida. Hawaii is too darn expensive.
Yeah, you know what? When you compare Hawaii to Chicago, it's almost identical.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. The only thing that's different is milk is more expensive there. It's cheaper here. But guess what? Produce is more expensive here and it's cheaper there. So the gas prices are the same. Housing is the same. If you're in an
Mhm.
expensive neighborhood, it's through the roof. There's multi-million dollar houses right down the street from me, right where Dr. Mercola's office is, South Barrington. Oh
Mhm.
my God. Those houses, it's like we drive through there just to, go, whoa. Because they're
Mhm.
just mansions. They're giant mansions, and then you have the little suburban areas where I live where, our
Mhm.
houses are, two to 300,000 ish, um,
Mhm.
as an average price in this like more middle class, I would say middle to lower income is more where we're at. But I bought my house at 218 and it's now worth maybe 240, 250.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, in Hawaii, you can kind of do about the same. I was looking on the Big Island, and I was finding houses less expensive than here. Now, our
Really?
property taxes are ridiculous here. So
Mhm.
that's a big difference too, is their property taxes are different because it goes like you don't actually own your land. The land is
Mhm.
always owned by the Hawaiian people. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
just paying the taxes on it to occupy it, but you don't actually own the land like here where you would own it. So yeah, I mean it has its pros and cons. I think the worst thing would be that you're out in the middle of the ocean and far, far away from everybody. And if you want to go home to visit,
Mhm.
it's a pretty long trek no matter who you're going to see, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
you got to take a month off just to go to the States, back to the mainland and visit everybody
Mhm.
that you're missing out on before you go home. So that would be the hard part. But the rest of it would be great.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like
Yeah.
if I'm struggling to survive here financially, why not be struggling to survive somewhere that I love to be? You know? So,
Exactly.
but yeah,
Exactly.
we've been looking at Florida too because, Florida's just they're just they have better obviously taxes, than Illinois by
Mhm.
far. No
Mhm.
property tax, or what is it? No income tax, sorry, not property. It's no income tax. No estate taxes, none of that. So like Florida's much more financially friendly. They're also a
Mhm.
little more open right now, and so you have a little bit
Yes.
more freedom. Where here we're really locked down. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. For me, I feel like, yeah, of course, there's COVID and we all should be concerned. And I wear a mask for courtesy for others because I don't want anybody
Mhm.
else to feel uncomfortable when I come around. So I just wear it for their sake. But I'm just not going to spend my time being terrified of COVID. I feel like if I don't start just living my life and being me and enjoying the
Mhm.
everyday, that it'll start to take its toll on me more so than, whatever. I don't know. I feel like we all need to get out and live a little bit. Like we need to still be able to socialize and have human connection and see a smile once in a
Mhm.
while. It sucks to go
Oh,
out and not
God.
be able to see anyone smile,
Oh, I hate it. I
you
hate
know.
it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm so done with it. I haven't stopped living my life. I've flown around the country twice during
Wow.
COVID and packed sardine. I wasn't really wearing a mask for a lot of the time. I had an exemption from my doctor. So I wasn't wearing a mask because he said he's like, it's worse for you. In his opinion, he said it's worse for you to not get the oxygen. It can cause, it can clot the blood. It does. There is a factor involved with blood clotting, lack of oxygen. He said it's better for you not to. And he
Yeah.
said,
Well, they
he
say
said,
it
you know,
hurts your immune system to be breathing back your own, uh,
yeah,
your own carbon monoxide. What is it?
carbon
Monoxide, dioxide?
dioxide.
Yeah, monoxide. I mix those two up all the time.
Yeah.
But they say it's worse for you to be doing that because and when you're not out exposing yourself to all the normal germs of the world, your immune
Right.
system can't respond to the normal germs of the world anymore. It's like when you have a new
Mhm.
baby and you shelter it from everybody. You don't let anybody come over for the first month that they're alive. Like everybody does
Mhm.
that probably with their first baby, but by the time you get to your second or third, you realize like, oh, the only way they're going to build immunity is by being exposed to other people.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
there is something to be said for the herd immunity, but I guess I'm more referring to like the power of positive thinking and the power of the mind. And I know that if I spend my time focused on being afraid of COVID, then I'm going to bring it to myself, and I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So I'm not
No.
focused on being afraid. I'm focused on my life and on trying to live normal and trying to still, I'm leaving next week to go visit my family in West Virginia and go see my dad and my grandparents and most of them have already been vaccinated now anyway, so I'm kind of not happy about that, but that was their choice and
Mhm.
as long as they're
Mhm.
all still okay right now, that's good. I don't want to lose anybody, to an experimental vaccine, and I know that's a
Mhm.
controversial thing right now, but I mean, they say that herbs and cannabis are dangerous because there's no long-term studies or blah blah blah. Well, there are some in Europe. They're just not in the
Mhm.
US. Um,
Mhm.
but because the science isn't here, they want to try to dismiss that and say, oh no, it's dangerous, it's dangerous. But this is supposed to be so safe and we don't have long-term studies on it, like how come this is okay and that's not? Like it seems like a double standard to me. And that's just my personal opinion. I don't fault anybody who feels safer by doing the vaccine. I feel safer taking my chances with COVID. And I know that
Me too.
probably that
Yeah.
might terrify some people. That's just my personal feeling. And again, I don't fault anybody who wants to have it or feels that they're safer with it. If that makes them feel better, by all means. My dad, my sister, my brother, my two grandparents that I was just talking about, Grandma and Grandpa Boyce, they both had it. So my sister had a real bad reaction when she got hers.
Really?
The
Did
first
she get
shot,
the second dose?
yeah,
Did she, she
yeah, she
did.
did. And the
Okay.
second dose was worse. So the first dose, she had pain and inflammation at the site, and she had
Mhm.
swollen lymph nodes under her arms, and she was worried about the swollen lymph nodes under her arms. And then that eventually went away, and then she went back for her 2-week shot, and she was fine the day of, but later that evening she spiked a really high fever. She had the shakes so bad she couldn't sleep because she was
Oh
shivering
my
so bad.
God.
And she had a heating blanket and like 5 blankets on top of her, and she was just shaking and
Wow.
couldn't sleep. She had a terrible headache, body aches. She was just really feeling bad for a couple days. She did perk back up though, and she's okay now. So hopefully,
Good.
hopefully she'll remain okay and everything will be all right. But she was just, we have a lot of elderly grandparents in West Virginia. I have my last living grandmother is there, Grandma Harshbarger. Um, and she's in her 80s, and Grandma and Grandpa Boyce are in their 80s, and so she just didn't want to take a risk getting any of them sick because she's around them all the time, and she's a surgical nurse, so she works,
Mhm.
in hospital settings. So of course, she's a higher risk for contracting and spreading. So I think she did the right thing. She wanted to protect everybody around her, and I understand. But it was hard on her. She had a hard time with it. So, and
But
that's
I
what
don't.
terrified me about my grandparents getting it, because I thought, my God, if Kelly had this bad of a reaction, what if they have a bad reaction? Because they might not handle it as well as she did. She's 10 years younger than me. She's like 34, I think, or 33. Um,
Well,
so
I just don't understand. We have cures. We have hydrochloroquine.
right, we
There's a
have
length protocol.
ivermectin and vitamin D
Ivermectin.
and
I mean, we
zinc,
have
and
all that.
yeah.
So, to me, it's like, and there's a 99.7 cure rate. Um, especially for people our age. I mean, for the older people, it's less, but I mean, it's the same statistics as the flu.
I know. When you look
I
on the
just,
CDC website, it is, and it's amazing how they've, just I don't know. I pay attention to what the news doesn't tell you and what they don't allow, and it's like any information on this vaccine potentially being dangerous, they completely shut it down, not only on the news but on social media. And it's like, well, if it's so safe, then why wouldn't you allow us to at least know what the potential precautions are that we need to be worried about? I mean, I don't think there's any harm in allowing that information out, especially in a supposed free speech society, which we're sort of not anymore. But
well,
I mean, the more they try to shut down that information, the more skeptical I become of the whole vaccine, because it's like, well, why do they need to hide that? Why do they need to suppress that? Why can't we at least know about these things? But any doctor that speaks out about ivermectin or hydrochloroquine or any of that stuff, they're
Mhm.
shut down.
Shut down, lose their
And
job.
right. And that makes
Mhm.
me more suspicious than anything. Just the fact that they're shutting people's voices down, that makes me
Mhm.
more suspicious.
Right.
So,
And just saw this article from Health Impact News. This was last week. 653 deaths now recorded following the mRNA COVID injections.
mhm.
Over 12,000 reported injuries. I mean,
Yep.
it's to me, it's Russian roulette. I mean,
It is. And I feel
I,
like, whatever's meant to happen in my life is meant to happen. And if I'm meant to get COVID, I'll get COVID. And what
mhm,
really upsets me about that is that, like even like Monica, she's had COVID, right? And so that makes me feel better. Like I know somebody with ET
mhm,
can survive COVID, thank God.
mhm,
Monica's our example. But the doctors are saying, well, we don't know how long your immunity lasts. Well, why is it that we would even use a vaccine then if the immunity part isn't working? Because isn't that how a vaccine works? Is it you're introducing this pathogen to your body? Your body's now getting the memory of that pathogen so
mhm.
that it can fight it off in the future. Well, if that doesn't naturally occur after getting COVID, then who's to say that a vaccine would work? either, which is probably why they're doing mRNA versus traditional vaccine technology. But at the same time, it's like, well, how do we know that? How do we know that you can't, that you don't now have immunity? And, why don't we just go ahead and do some studies on that before we just give people a vaccine after they've already had COVID? Because they've already said that if you've already had COVID and you take the vaccine, you can now, because it's mRNA and it's affecting every DNA cell in your body, you can now give it to everyone around you because all the air you're breathing out now has this COVID SARS-2 on it. So isn't the point of the vaccine to keep you from spreading it? And yet now they're saying if you've ever had any of the COVID, and by the way, COVID is like a normal cold and flu that we've had around
Yeah.
for centuries. So all of us have had some form of COVID at some point when we've had a regular cold or flu. So that means if we get the vaccine, we can now spread it. Well, guess what? My sister, 2 days after she had her first shot, or 3 days after she had her first shot, her husband got COVID.
Oh, what a
Miraculously, he got COVID.
coincidence.
Yeah, isn't that a funny coincidence?
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm afraid that getting the vaccine helps you spread the vaccine because that's what, when you really look into the science of what they're saying, that's what it sounds like. Now, I'm not a doctor, but that's what I'm afraid of. And so I don't want to infect anybody else around me. And I certainly don't want the vaccine to have adverse effects. I mean, I saw a video of a nurse who had Bell's palsy
Oh,
from
I saw that
Tennessee,
too.
and that video got taken down real quick.
Yeah.
And it's like, why can't we talk about that? Because all
Mhm.
vaccines have some kind of side effect, and we all know this going into it. And there's no reason we shouldn't be able to have an open, honest conversation about it. The fact that they shut down that type of information is what scares me about it.
Right,
That's
right.
what makes me feel so hesitant.
And that nobody knows.
Right.
I don't even discuss it with my family members because they look at me like I'm
I
nuts.
know. I
Like,
get the
how,
same thing. They think
how,
I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, no, I'm just cautious with my body. I don't like to put anything in there unless I have to, and I know what it is. And I'm sorry, I don't really know what's in this damn COVID shot. And when it's experimental mRNA, I've been trying to avoid mRNA with GMO foods forever.
right.
So
Yeah.
why would I just invite the mRNA? No.
No, no. And
I
it's
friggin'
never,
marched in the march against Monsanto. Like
yeah.
I'm way too purist for that, I think. I don't know. It's just who I am, and I respect other people have different opinions on it, and
Mhm,
I hope that they respect I do too. And I don't
mhm.
think it makes me a conspiracy nut because I don't trust it. I would just rather see what happens to everybody else first, as terrible as that sounds, before I trust it. And if a while goes by and everybody's safe and it's all good, then cool. Maybe at some
Mhm.
point I'll have to have it so I can travel because I have a feeling we're going to end up with travel restrictions if we don't get it, um, which
I do
is really
too.
stupid. But you
It
know,
is
we'll cross that
crazy.
bridge when we get there. And it's kind of the same thing with the hydria. It's like if I
Hmm.
have to, I will, but it's going to be a last resort. The same
Right.
thing with the vaccine. It's going to be a last resort. That's just
Yeah.
how it is for me. I'm going to try everything natural I possibly can. And when I've exhausted all those opportunities and none of them are working, then fine. But for now, I've seen a lot of promising results just from keeping my immune system strong. I know
Hmm.
I've been exposed to people that have just gotten over COVID on multiple
Hmm.
occasions. And
Oh,
so
me too.
far, knock on wood, I have not gotten it. Now, I
Yeah.
take 50,000 IU of vitamin D every Tuesday, and then I take 5,000 every day in my normal herbal regimen.
Hmm.
I put trace minerals in my water sometimes. I put iodine in my water, just a drop of it sometimes.
Hmm.
I'm making sure that I've got, I take a magnesium, of five types of magnesium in a supplement. So, I'm making sure that my minerals are good because
Hmm.
vitamin A, C, D, and E, plus all of your minerals are what help keep your immune system strong. And the only
Hmm.
thing I haven't done is start taking ivermectin. But
Hmm.
after everything I've read about it, it makes me really want to just take it as a preventative, especially if I'm going to
Hmm.
travel. Because, at 800 out of 800 frontline working doctors that working with COVID patients firsthand took ivermectin, and 800 out of 800 of them did not get COVID.
Wow.
So they used it as a preventative,
Awesome.
and it worked
Hmm.
fantastic. And they also can use it in the cure, and it works
Hmm.
fantastic. So if I knew how to get my hands on ivermectin, I'd have some right now.
Oh, I heard you could get them they give them to horses. So you can buy it at
Oh,
horse
the
supply,
pet
the
pharmacy.
pet pharmacies. Yes. And
Ah. Well,
this
that's,
one,
when my son was going through his cancer care, I found some information on, oh gosh, I've got it in the cabinet. It's like a goat dewormer. It's,
Yeah, it's a dewormer. Yeah,
Fenbendazole, and it's the same thing. It's like a
yeah.
deworming agent or an antiparasitic, and there's people that have literally cured themselves of cancer with this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Ah,
how crazy with a goat dewormer. I was like, really? That and but there's people that swear that's all they did, and there's
mm,
videos they're talking about it. Um, so
amazing. I get so overwhelmed. I know there's so many cures out there, and whenever I start going down that rabbit hole, I get overwhelmed and then I get very angry.
yeah,
And then I just like can't even deal with it. I need to figure out how to because there is just so much information,
there is.
I
There
mean,
is.
but I get overwhelmed with it all. And because what we have is rare, it's like, you're kind of the first person to really come out and say, I use this and it's making my numbers go down.
Yeah.
Um, I guess because of the rarity of it, there's just not a lot, breast cancer, there's a ton of stuff out there that people have used, but um, there's just not a lot of information on our particular thing. And because
Right, because it's
it's,
not such a common cancer, so there's not as many
yeah,
people out there searching. And I think there's a good chunk of us that when we get hit with a really sort of, I don't want to say crippling, but like, a really big diagnosis like this, that it's almost like, oh my God, I don't know anything about this. It's so rare. All there is to do is trust what the doctor tells me to do. Well, the
mhm,
doctor knows what to do for you is tell you to go on baby aspirin and take a chemo or don't take a chemo. And the only way you don't take a chemo is if you can keep your platelets under 800. Otherwise they
mhm,
want to put you on it. And that's really the only answer. There's no other anything. And you'd think with a disease like this that only has three potential therapeutics for it, that they would, I don't know,
mhm.
have some research on how diet can maybe affect it or like something, just something that we could do to manage it better. Like, okay, stay away from these kind of foods or, the hematologist never once said stay away from vitamin K.
Yeah, no,
Never
no,
once. I've never heard that from a hematologist. That's something I read on my own that I was like, oh shit, that makes you clot. I'm not gonna do it. I'll stop with all my spirulina and like just do that a couple days a week instead of all the time.
Mhm,
Um, but so I watch my greens now, and I have kind of southern roots, so my family likes to eat collard greens and cornbread and turnip greens and
mhm,
all that kind of stuff. And
mhm,
I'll still have them once in a while, but I don't eat it like I used to, because now I know. But I found that out from my own research, and that's the
mhm.
same thing with the cannabis medicine, the same thing with the turmeric. I think you were the one that sent me the article on the turmeric way back
Yeah,
when we first met. I think it was you that sent that to
yeah.
me.
And
Yeah.
and then Angela Fleischman, um, I read the article you sent about NAC, and I found a really interesting quote. It was a very long, long research paper, but
Yeah.
the quote I found that kind of like I wrote it down was that she was saying that a growing body of evidence suggests notion that aberrant leukocyte activation plays important role in thrombosis and MPN. Interestingly enough, an elevated leukocyte count, but not platelet count, correlates with thrombotic risk in cardiovascular disease and MPN.
Hmm.
So it's like, everyone's focusing on
Platelets, but
platelets,
not on the leukocytes.
but not on the
Right.
leukocytes. So now I'm going to
Yeah, I'm going to be looking
focus
at my
more on
next blood
leukocytes.
work. Yeah.
But it's like, hello, I mean, this is huge. And
Right.
I don't know if it's been pointed out in the MPN.
I mean, maybe the doctors are aware of it and they look for it, but they didn't say anything to me about it. I obviously they didn't say anything to you about it. So I
No,
don't know.
just
I didn't know
platelets.
that was something we had to watch for, but that's really good to know.
And this is from January. So this just came out. Oh, this is January last year that
Okay.
this came out. So maybe it hasn't reached the doctors yet. Maybe the MPN specialist, but just your, everyday hemo
Right.
oncologist hasn't filtered them. So
Yeah,
so
that
this
makes
is
sense.
something we could bring to our doctors to show, okay, maybe we should be focusing on, leukocytes now. Um, or as well as
Yeah.
platelets.
Well, and my blood work, it's been coming back. with some other levels elevated, like I think it was white cells or and maybe lymphocytes at one point. And so, of course, what was happening for me is I've been having hormonal migraines. So I've been going to my OB-GYN like every other week. And so every
Mhm.
2 weeks, she's like taking blood work, doing swab and urine, taking blood work, doing a swab and urine, and just repeated every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And anytime she sees that those numbers are high, she's like, oh, we need to put you on antibiotics. Oh, we need to put you on antibiotics. Well, then I called my hematologist and was like, listen, is it normal for these to be a little bit high since I have an MPN? And she's like, oh, yeah. She's like, all we know is that your bone marrow is producing, overproducing. And therefore, it's going
Mhm.
to overproduce more than just platelets. It's going to overproduce other stuff too sometimes. And she's like, so I wouldn't be concerned about it. She's like, but
Mhm.
if you want to, go ahead and take the antibiotic. And I'm like, well, no, no, no. I take probiotics, drink kombucha. I'm doing all this stuff to keep my flora good. I don't want to take the antibiotics.
Right. Right.
So, and I couldn't, I tried to talk to my OB-GYN about it, and she just, I don't know that she listens that well. So she was just like, no, 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 you don't understand. This is different. This isn't, to do with that. But she's an OB-GYN. She's not an MPN specialist. She's not a hematologist. But she's trying to tell me, no, 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 you still need to take this antibiotic. So I took the prescription and I threw it in my cabinet. I
Mhm.
didn't take it. I
Mhm.
thought if my next test comes back with it again, fine, I'll take it. But I'm going to just see what happens if I don't take it and get another test. And sure enough, swab and urine came back clean, blood work came back
Mhm.
fine. And it was like, and I never took the antibiotic.
Good.
So
Good. So she just assumed you had an infection.
this is like fifth or sixth time that she's
Okay.
seen that my numbers have been a little bit higher in those areas, and she thinks I have
Mhm.
infection.
Mhm.
Every time she thinks I have infection. So, and I
Interesting.
know I don't have infection. I have a blood disorder.
Right. Right. It's
I don't
gonna
have a
skew.
fever. I don't have chills. You know what I mean? I know I don't have an infection.
Right.
So,
Well, interesting. When my dad he just got over pneumonia, his platelets shot up 200,000 from
whoa,
450 to 650. Yeah,
that's really high.
I was
Yeah.
very surprised, and
For
I was
someone who doesn't have a disorder, too. Like,
right. I was
yeah.
surprised. So, you know, I mean, when our platelets kind of sometimes go up and down, it could be because we're fighting some infection, and so
Right. It
you know,
certainly could be. We have other stuff going on in the body, and that's going to cause it to spike a little too. And so I could see where that would make sense. But it was like after so many times of her doing that, because the first few times I took her antibiotics, and then what happens to women when we take antibiotics? Now I got to do a whole nother week of another antibiotic. So
oh, I hate them.
and that's why I didn't want to mess with it. And so the first few times I did what she told me to do. I took the antibiotics, but then my numbers went down, everything was fine, and I thought after like the second or third time I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah,
I'm just going to see what happens. And sure enough, everything balanced out. And I think it's part of the ebbs and flows, and a lot of it has to do with how I'm feeling too, because the days I'm having my migraines, I can feel it. My whole body feels like just
yeah,
tense. And so I'm pretty sure my numbers are going to be higher on those days than on days that I feel really
right,
good.
definitely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. But,
I think cutting out I feel better now than I did 20 years ago. And it's totally the supplements and the diet change and the exercising. I mean, it's amazing. Just it's
yeah.
amazing. I wish, that's why when people say like this first oncologist I went to, she was mad at me that I had my JAK2 tested to confirm it. She was like, why did you have that done? Who told you to do this? And I'm like, well, I researched it myself and I asked my doctor to do it. And she was almost like, well, it would have been better if you hadn't known, you know,
Or
because
she probably thought you didn't trust her diagnosis, and so you went behind her back to double check that to get a second opinion, basically. And I'm sure that's probably why she felt offended, maybe because she thought like you didn't trust her original diagnosis. But
oh no, I had never seen her before. So
oh, okay.
my GP is the one who tested me.
So yeah, why would she be upset about that then? That's
It
weird.
was almost like, like a lot of there's this idea that there's nothing that can be done for you. So it's better for you not to even know, because the stress of knowing that you have a blood cancer
I
And
mean,
in
yeah,
my,
maybe that's why they don't tell you it's cancer, you know, but then you look
I
it up and
think,
it says that it's a malignancy.
right.
You know, so isn't a malignancy cancer, and isn't a mutation cancer? Is that not the definition of cancer? So it's like it's a really weird gray area that we get thrown into because no
Yeah.
one, I don't think anyone is clear on whether or not it is a cancer or isn't, you know, because I
Right.
mean, like we were talking about in the last call, you know, disease starts in the mind. And so I can understand where knowing about it may make you obsess over it a little too much and think about it too much, and then it could cause it to progress. Why? Because you're focused on it. Just like I'd say I don't want to focus on COVID, right?
Mhm.
Same type of concept. It's the more you think about something, the more it comes about. So the less you know in that aspect, I guess, potentially could make you think about it less. But you know, to be honest, I think the all the not knowing has been the stress for me. I'm the kind of person that I mean, you seem to be very similar to me in this sense. Like, once I got diagnosed, I was like, oh my God, let me look up everything I can to see what I can
Mhm.
do. Because I feel like, I mean, I guess it's a control thing, but you know, it's the only way I can have control of this situation or feel like I'm at least doing my due diligence to try to keep myself healthy is to do that kind of research, and it is to
Mhm.
find out what kind of supplements I can take, or what kind of diet changes I can make, or you know, what can I do to make this less impactful in my life or potentially rid my life of it. I mean, I've always hoped someday I could find a cure for it, you know. I don't know that I
Mhm.
can, but I mean, we may just
Mhm.
have to live with it forever, and that might be fine, you know, whatever. As long as I don't have an episode and I'm able to keep my platelets in check, I'm okay with that. You
Mhm.
know, it's just
Right.
a
Right.
it's just a diagnosis. It's just a, you know, it's a label to
Right.
put on something, you know. So um but yeah, I guess if you dig too deep into it and you allow your mind to obsess over it and worry about it, that's where it can become damaging. You know, I think it's
Mhm.
just a matter of being proactive when you're doing your research about things, and you know that you're looking for positive ways to manage and or cure what you have going on. And so you're looking for positive information, you're looking for good news, like knowing now that I need to watch, you know, my lymphocytes as much as I watch my platelets. You know, that's a good information. That's something I'm
Mhm.
happy to know about now. I'm not going to sit home and obsess. You know, I guess maybe if my blood work starts coming back with high lymphocytes, I might panic a little
Mhm.
bit. But I mean, but it's, to me, the knowledge is empowering. To me, it's like I feel like I have more control over my situation and over managing it with more knowledge.
Mhm.
Or maybe somebody else would have more knowledge and create more worry in their mind, you know. But we're all different in that sense, and it's really a matter of what do you do with that information, you know. Um,
Right.
you
Yeah,
can
I
you
mean,
can let it scare you, or you can let it empower you to find a way to combat it and do better, you know.
and that was my point. Yeah, that was my point to her. I said, "Well, what was I supposed to do? Wait until I had a stroke? Is that,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, at least now I can make lifestyle changes that may help. That may help me."
And even if
And
they
you know,
don't, then it's my wasted energy. You know,
right.
even if they don't, it can't. In my opinion, it can't hurt, right?
It can't hurt.
And
No.
who knows what little thing we're doing, you know, helps just enough to keep us out of that range of, you know, um,
Mhm.
having a thrombotic event or something. Like, you know, for example, I have a really close friend who's, I don't even honestly know if he's still alive right now. He's got a he had a melanoma that turned in, hit, the cancer got into his lymph nodes, and his whole left
Oh.
side of his neck is just swelled up real bad. And um, he uh, he was doing a keto diet for a while because he, you know, he's a husky guy, and
Mhm.
he was trying to lose weight. And so his cancer had, I don't want to say gone into remission, but it, you know, all of this swelling had gone down.
Mhm.
He was starting to live a normal life again for a while. And I don't know what happened, but at some point he went off the keto, and
Mhm.
now, you know, his cancer has progressed, and you know, it was just a week or two ago they told him he's probably got less than a month. And
Oh.
I talked to him. I tried to see if I could get him some cannabis oils again and get him some different herbs and things like the fenbendazole. And I mean, I have all kinds of stuff that I researched for my son's cancer that's good for head and neck cancers. I have this blushwood berry, and I have ashwagandha and the brocomax, and you know, all these different things I had purchased for my son because I was trying to help him with his cancer. And of course his was removed through surgery, and he hasn't taken any of it, so I've just got thousands of dollars worth of herbs sitting here. So I was going to bring them to him But he ended up, he's my son's father's best friend.
Okay.
So, and I met my son's father through him. So he's been a good friend of mine for a long time. Um, but he called my son's father 2 days ago, I think it was, it might have been 3 days ago, and said, "Hey, I'm in so much pain. I couldn't sleep last night. Can you take me to the ER?" And so he took him to the ER, and I haven't heard from him since. I've texted him a few times. I haven't gotten a response. So I'm hoping he's still with us. I'm hoping that there's something we can do for him, but I don't know yet. You know, it's kind of
That's
trying to keep him out of
interesting.
pain. But it's weird how just that little bit of a diet change actually extended his life
Yeah.
for that bit of time, because he was in way worse shape before he started that. And he even said to me, he goes, "I bet you doing that keto is probably what kept me going for so long." And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." Because, he was asking me about, like, he's on so many painkillers, he was like, "What should I have for fiber? Should I have this granola bar or should I have this cereal?" And I'm like, "I would go for the cereal," and then he goes, "Well, but I want to put a bunch of sugar on top." And I was like, "No, sugar
Yeah.
feeds cancer. Like, that's the last thing
Yeah.
you need is sugar." And he's like, and that's when he said, "Oh, yeah, I bet that keto is probably what saved me for a while." And I'm like, "Yeah, it probably was." So he's like, "Well, I still have some Truvia. I'll use that." So he put Truvia on his cereal. But,
The keto is amazing. I was doing great before the holidays, and then the holidays came, and I'm still trying to get back on the keto
yeah,
wagon.
I want to find that article I had found. There was something on PubMed I had read about. I'm gonna have to find this for you. Um, I was trying to do keto,
Mhm.
and I was doing okay with it, but the sugar is the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's the hardest part. I'm fine without carbs. I'm cool without carbs. I don't care. I love
Mhm.
veggies. I'm good. But man, the sugar is what was really hard for me, and I kept trying to use like xylitol or erythritol, and like, if you use a little bit too much, then you knock yourself out of ketosis. And so I was
Mhm.
struggling with that, but I was doing all right. I at least got the gluten-free thing for like a 2 year
Mhm.
period of time, and I had a lot less mental fog, and I had like a little bit
Mhm.
better digestion going on. I definitely felt a little better when I was doing gluten-free. But then I found this article that said, um, for cancers, that the keto diet can be really good for certain cancers that feed off glucose, but
Mhm.
not all cancers feed off glucose.
Mhm.
Some cancers, and they specifically cited leukemia,
Mhm.
actually feed off protein. So doing
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
keto diet for someone on leukemia, or someone who has leukemia, is actually really dangerous because it's just going to feed their cancer, versus somebody who has like a tumoral cancer that's going to feed off of sugar. They would really benefit from the keto because you're going to cut off the food supply to that tumor. So when I read that, I was like, "Oh shit, well, maybe I shouldn't be so stressed out about trying to go keto," because our
Yeah.
cancer falls in that family of leukemic. So I'm like, "Well, shit, maybe giving it too much protein would be bad. I don't know." So I still don't know what the right diet would be for us. I still haven't figured that
Yeah.
out. I would love to find a nutritionist or somebody with nutritional background that maybe knows a little bit about ET or has ET. It would be so cool to find somebody like that, because I think
Yeah.
it would help all of us. I mean, like Monica's vegan, and she's trying to be vegan without having too much vitamin K. That's got to be a challenge. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. I've gone off chicken ever since you told me about chicken can be was that you that said that? Somebody told me that chicken can be an inflammatory. And so I was like,
No.
I guess I'll
No.
avoid chicken
Too
for a
much.
while. So I've
No.
come off. It was another one of our MPM people. I thought it might have been you, but it might have been Mandy or
Is
Jackie.
it
Maybe it was
or
Jackie. It might have been Jackie who told me that.
even organic? Like the
Yeah, yeah, that chicken itself
Ooh.
can be an inflammatory. So I thought,
Oh.
well, let's just try not doing chicken for a while. So I've been doing lamb and bison and beef and
Mhm.
stuff. But I've
Mhm.
I've sort of, I mean, I've had chicken here or there, but not like I mean, I used to eat it several times a day. Like most of
Yeah.
my food, most of everything I was eating was having chicken in it. So I've kind of cut that back a little bit. But my headaches haven't gone away yet. I still, whatever I'm doing, I haven't figured it out fully yet because I'm still getting these migraines. I had about
Oh.
2 weeks ago, I had a 2 day long one, and then a few days ago, I think it was Wednesday and Thursday all day, both days.
Oh.
I was a
That's
mess. I probably
debilitating.
took ibuprofen like 4 times throughout the day just because I couldn't get it to go away. It was really
It's
good.
do you eat restaurant food a lot?
Rarely. I do cook at home a lot.
Mm.
But you know what's funny? I was just this morning we went and grabbed a coffee and a bagel breakfast sandwich from this little Green Joe coffee place here in Schaumburg. They have like all organic coffee and they use like the pure cane sugar in their syrups. They don't do the high fructose. They use the Monin brand, which I like. So we went there and I got my coffee and we got bagel sandwiches. And of course, as soon as I finish eating, I start sneezing. And this happens every time I go to a restaurant. And I don't know what my problem is. When I eat at home, I'm fine. But when I eat at a restaurant, I get like 3/4 of the way through my meal or I finish up my meal and then I start sneezing and I start having sinusy stuff going on. And I go
Oh,
here and I laughed. I was like, look, here we go. I'm eating from a restaurant and I'm having a sneezing attack again. And I don't know why it is. I don't know what
there's something,
there's
some
something. I don't know if it's soybean
yeah,
oil or something. I
yeah.
did do like a food sensitivity test a few years ago, and they said that soya bean oil, which I'm assuming is just the
Hmm.
soy cooking oil, was something that I showed up as sensitive to. So I mean, it could be
Maybe
that. I thought it was onions for a long time, but there was no onions in my breakfast sandwich, so I don't know what it is.
they
But
could have cooked, the oil, or it
maybe
could have
the
been.
eggs or the ham were cooked, because there was eggs, ham, and cheese, and I was even vegan cheddar that I had on there. So I didn't even do the real cheese, but um, I've been sort of not completely eliminating, but reducing my dairy intake
Mhm.
significantly. I haven't drank any milk in a couple weeks now because I'm trying to. One of my girlfriends is an esthetician, and I've been having real bad hormonal acne all here around my mouth. And
Mhm.
she said that cutting the dairy should help with that. So I'm
Yeah, dairy
trying
is
to
a
do an
big.
experiment and see if that'll help. Because anything to get rid of the hormonal migraines and the acne would be lovely. I never had acne as a teenager. It just
Oh,
I've always
really?
had real oily skin, and I would get them like around my where I'd hairspray my hair or
Mhm.
something, and the occasional one on my forehead. But I've never really had an acne problem until I hit my late 30s, and all of a sudden it's like my whole from my nose down, this whole area has just been
Really?
breaking out like crazy.
Wow. Yeah, definitely hormones for sure. Every month I get breakouts.
Yeah, I do too, really bad. And it's like, I just feel like I'm at an age where I wish I could just turn the switch off. Like, I don't want to have any more babies, and I don't,
Right.
like I have no need for any of this anymore. Can we just turn it off, please? I don't need it.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be lovely. I would love to not have to deal with that. So, I don't know. I had an ablation that helped a lot. Not with the hormonal acne or the headaches, but it helped with the severity of the menstruation and stuff. So,
Oh, good.
that was a big relief. I had that done last year in January, I think. So
Good.
January or February of last year. Um, and that did make a difference, but that's been the only thing that's helped so far. And she wants to take my uterus, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what? Do,
I don't what yeah, why? Does
because
she think of
it'll
herself?
take the period away, but it's not going to take away the hormonal acne or the migraines because those are
Well,
all hormonally triggered. So taking the uterus doesn't solve that problem,
what
you
about
know?
hormone therapy, natural hormone therapy? Have you looked into that?
So I took by standard process. They have one called Femco, and then they have the Primrose. Is it Primrose?
Oil?
I think so. It's but both of those are supposed to help regulate the feminine hormones. It helps you produce more progesterone, and progesterone
Mhm.
helps to regulate your testosterone and estrogen. Well, when I started taking that, I did okay the first month, but once I got into like the second and third month of taking it, I was spotting the whole month.
Mhm.
And so my OB told me to stop. And then she
Mhm.
put me on a birth control that was progesterone only, and the exact same thing happened.
Oh,
So I had to
interesting.
come off of that. So apparently, I can't do any of the progesterone stuff. It doesn't seem to really work for me. And it didn't take away the headaches or the acne. I didn't have any real
Oh.
relief with that either. So I haven't found the magic medicine yet. But I find it odd that higher estrogen can create more platelets. And the
Mhm.
bulk of the symptoms I'm having are surrounded around my hormones.
Mhm.
So I feel like somewhere in here that the estrogen production might be what my issue is or has something
Mhm.
to do with my symptoms at least. And I haven't quite figured out how to manage that yet. I have been when I know that it's time for me to get a normal migraine, like I know my period's coming, so I know, okay, the day before or the day of is usually when I get that migraine, I start drinking soy instead of
Mm-hmm.
almond milk. Normally I drink almond and coconut milk or cashew milk. I don't know why I can't do oat milk. Oat milk tears my stomach up. But I can do almond and cashew and coconut. So I do that most of the time. But when I start getting around the time I know I'm going to have a headache, I start drinking soy.
But
And
isn't that more estrogen producing?
it is because when I get the migraines are when my estrogen drops.
Okay.
That's the only time I get the migraines. It
Mm-hmm.
drops right when you're getting your period, and then
Mm-hmm.
right after you ovulate, it'll drop again. So
Mm-hmm.
that when you look at like the last 2 years of my headache calendar, it's exactly during those two times of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I know it has something to do with the estrogen dropping, and that's what makes it so confusing because I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, more estrogen means more platelets, which should mean more symptoms when I have more platelets. But
Right.
my symptoms are happening when my estrogen drops. So it's
Wow.
like
That's great. Does the soy milk help?
it does seem to take the edge off a little bit. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, I was having 3 day long migraines before. Now they're like 2 days. Woo.
Well, that's
2 days.
improvement.
Woo.
So, have you heard of Vitex berry? Vitex.
Mm-mm.
That's what my daughter used to have horrible PMS, and he recommended that. I'll send you information on that. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
that'd
some
be great.
you can look into, but that was what he recommended. It's another herb. I think it's chaseberry.
Oh yeah, chase tree. That's what I was taking.
Is
It
that what you're
wasn't.
talking
It
about?
wasn't
Okay,
primrose oil. It was chase tree.
chase tree.
Chase
Okay,
tree.
that's
Yeah, I was taking that, and then there's another one called Femco, and I guess you have
mhm.
to take them in. You have to take them together. I started just taking the chase tree, and then I talked to somebody who was. Who would I talk to? Oh, it was the naturopathic guy who does acupuncture, and he was saying that you have to take it with the Femco in order for it to really work. And so
Oh,
I wasn't when I just took the chase tree, I didn't have any spotting, but I also didn't notice any difference in the headaches or the acne or any of that. I really didn't notice any difference.
mhm.
Now maybe I needed to take it longer. I don't know. But then when he told me that, I started taking them together, and that's when I started having the spotting.
Okay. I wonder why, because I was on progesterone for a really long time and never had any of that at all. I guess just all different. But when I went off
Yeah.
the progesterone, I noticed I felt better. I didn't have the huge mood swings.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's just trial and error with so much of this.
It is. Hormones are a hard thing to figure out. I'm realizing this in my older age that even, the men in my life are having a really hard time with getting their testosterone right. And, like my brother
Mhm.
actually was just recently diagnosed with a pituitary adenoma. So it's like a tumor on your pituitary gland that's benign, but it affects your hormone production. And he was gaining weight like crazy and like really rapidly gaining weight. And no matter what diet he did, he was paying a personal trainer, he was like doing all this stuff, and he just kept gaining weight and gaining weight, like at a really ridiculous rate. And,
Wow.
he was gaining 4 or 5 pounds a week, just steady all the time. And he could not figure out how to get it to stop. And they tried to put him on a diet pill for a while, and they did all these different things. And he's the one who pushed to just please check out my hormones, check out my pituitary.
Mhm.
Like, let's please just, and he pushed and pushed. And finally, he got the doctor to do the MRI, and they found this pituitary adenoma, which is what's causing his hormonal imbalance. And they said it's actually a genetic thing. My grandfather apparently had it, my dad's
Interesting.
dad. So, my paternal grandfather, he had it. And, I guess it's a hereditary thing that it can skip a
Mhm.
generation. So they sent me for MRI just to make sure that that wasn't what was causing all my hormonal issue, and they said I was fine. I don't have it. So I was
Hmm.
kind of hoping that they would say I had it just so I'd know what the hell was causing all these issues. I've never really wanted a diagnosis, but it was like, man, at least if I could know what's wrong, then I can know how to fix it.
Right.
And when you don't know what's wrong, it's like, well, I guess we'll just keep throwing something at it and hope it sticks. So but
Right.
even my OB can't figure it out. She's like, "Oh, well, you might be perimenopausal." I don't even know
Mhm.
what that means. I
That
really
just
don't.
means like before, like there's a stage before your full menopause. It's
Well, isn't
called
that premenopausal? But she said perimenopausal, so is this like pre-pre?
that's a good question. I
I
thought
don't
they were
know.
interchangeable. I thought they were interchangeable
Maybe
terms.
it is. Maybe it's the same. Maybe that is the same. I don't know. I mean, I definitely get hot flashes, but that's a symptom of ET.
Yeah,
So
right.
I don't
I
know.
know.
Headaches, hot flashes. I have been getting a lot more of the numbness and tingling in my hands.
Really?
Yeah, but I've been getting like these really bad cramps in my right shoulder. And of course, shoveling snow doesn't help.
Right.
So my fiance is like forbidding me from shoveling right now. He's like, "You're done. Every time you shovel, you're hurt." So, but my right shoulder's been cramping up real bad from the shoveling, and I think that's what's when I lay on my right side or I sit a certain way, my ring finger and my pinky and that whole section of my hand, just that half, will just go totally numb, and it's like pins
Really?
and needles, and I'm just like shaking and like
Really?
trying to get it to come back to life. I've been having a lot of that lately, but I think it's because my shoulder's jacked up. So if I could get the
Oh,
shoulder to calm down, it probably won't be so bad. But that's been really the only major change for me. I keep hoping now that I'm taking the spleen that maybe the headaches will calm down, or maybe I'll have a little bit less symptoms. I did put it in my pill pack twice a day now. The first week I was taking it, I was only doing once a day because I didn't read on there that you're supposed to take it with every meal, and
oh,
I don't even eat 3 meals a day anyway, so I would only do twice anyhow. I have one of those little Monday through Friday pill packs. And so
mm-hmm.
I do everything twice a day. Even
Yeah,
sometimes it'll say to do it 3 times a day. I just take it twice a day, or I'll take two of them for the second dose or whatever, because I don't like having to remember 3 times a day. It's hard enough doing it twice,
I know.
So,
What
but
advice?
yeah, so I'll do my first one in the morning right away, just get it out of the way. I just take my everything I need to take, it's done. And then I go throughout my day, and then right after dinner I'll take my evening stuff. But there's
Mhm.
times I forget my evening dose.
Oh, me
I
too.
don't think I
Yeah,
ever make it through a week without missing at least one day. So, I
we gotta
try,
do
but
what we can.
yeah. I
Do
mean, I
what we can.
figure as long as I'm being as steady as I can with everything, it's better than nothing. So, but I did change up that spleen to the twice a day. It says three
Yeah.
times, but I'm just doing it twice because again, I have my blood work coming up next week, so I want to see if it's making any difference at
Mhm.
all.
I'm
So,
getting mine tomorrow after 6 months. So
oh
I
wow,
don't
nice.
know.
Well,
I'm
don't go nervous because when you go nervous, that's when it goes up. Try to be calm, be happy.
oh, I was going to ask you before I forget, kratom. So
Yeah.
where my husband has a herniated disc.
Oh,
He's been in pain for months. Epidural did nothing. The only thing that helps is the cannabis at night.
yep.
It's the only way he can sleep. But I remember hearing about the kratom, and maybe who you'd have to go to a naturopath or
So
um,
here in Illinois, the only place I've found kratom is at all the little vape shops, like the smoke shop slash vape shop type
oh,
places,
okay.
that sell all the bongs and bowls and vaporizers and all that junk. Those are the places that sell it around here. So
Okay, so dispensary maybe a dispensary.
mm,
No.
dispensaries have like very strict laws and can only
Oh,
sell cannabis. So like I don't know about California, but in Illinois, we couldn't even sell hemp-based medicines. We could
right.
only sell cannabis, and we couldn't sell
Mhm.
kratom, we couldn't sell other herbs, any other kind of ingestible products we were not legally allowed to sell. So I don't know if you would find it at a dispensary in California. I would try um, maybe just Google kratom near me and
Mhm.
see if you can find some stores. I would think any of your herbal stores, like your natural
Mhm.
food stores and stuff that carry herbs, most of them should have it.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those controversial things, so not all those type of stores will have it because, they don't want to get in trouble for carrying it. So, um, the thing about kratom, not only is it hard to find, right? Some states have banned it entirely,
Mhm.
um, but it works kind of like cannabis, where there's different strains of it. So
Mhm.
some kratom gives you energy, and some kratom is very sedative. Okay, um, I have taken there's one called Mangda, there's a Borneo, there's a Bali. That's all where they come from. It's
Mhm.
a plant in the coffee family, so it grows
Oh,
indigenously in those type of regions, and they've used it for centuries to have energy and stamina when working in the fields to help get rid of pain. They would chew the leaves and they would drink it in a tea form.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
movie you can find. It's either on Netflix or YouTube. I can't remember, but it's called A Leaf of Faith. So not a leap, but a leaf, like a leaf on a
Hmm.
tree. So a leaf of
Hmm.
faith. That's a really good movie that'll tell you more about kratom. But the the yellow or gold and green color kratom generally are the ones that are more energy, right?
Hmm.
So those work kind of like caffeine where they give you energy, but they also do help for pain and things like that. Personally, now I've only tried the ones I had available here, so I'm not saying this is true for all kratoms in the yellow or green family. The green's kind of like a hybrid, the yellow's kind of like a sativa where it gives you energy, and then the red is more like an indica in cannabis where, it's more sedative and is a little more pain killing. I personally like the red because it just does work really good for pain. And when I take the red at night, it doesn't make me sleepy, but man, I sleep solid. Like nobody can wake me up. Like when I take
Wow.
the red Bali kratom, I sleep really solid. Um, but it
Wow.
does really good for pain. So when I'm having my migraines, a lot of times I'll take the kratom. I generally don't take the red Bali during the day because I don't want to. I mean, if I'm having that bad of a headache, I'm going to end up in bed anyway, so I'll just take it. But if I have things to do and I have places to go, I generally try to just do ibuprofen and like save the kratom for nighttime because I just don't want it to make me sleepy. I'm always afraid that it's going to happen. I haven't had that experience where it's actually made me
Mhm.
sleepy, but I'm just afraid that it will, so I don't. But I will say when I've taken the gold, Borneo, the whatever, any of the yellows that are supposed to give you energy,
Mhm.
they do give you energy, and I would say that I did feel good taking it, but I had a very short patience. Very
Mhm.
like it just
Oh,
made me
interesting.
and knowing me, I'm very laid back. I'm very chill.
Mhm.
I'm not snappy. It takes a
Mhm.
lot to really get me angry, and then when you do, it's watch out. But but it takes a lot to get me there. I'm not a snappy person, and that stuff made me feel very snappy. Like I was just real impatient, real short tempered.
Mhm.
So I don't take the daytime one just because it personally made me feel that way. Now that's not going to be true for everybody. It might be different for other people, but that was just my experience. And then the one that I do like for energy is called Green Borneo.
Mhm.
And the Green Borneo is like the hybrid, so it does give you a little bit of energy. It doesn't make you sleepy, but it works real good for pain. And that one, I had no short temperedness. I didn't feel any snappiness. I actually felt really happy and like light, uplifted, almost like a cannabis makes you feel, just
Mhm.
very like carefree, happy. So I really like the Green Borneo. I started buying that. One of the smokes, the vape shops near me, what is it? Wise Guys Vape. They
Mhm.
sell it in a bulk powder. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
bought it in the bulk and I made some of it into capsules and the rest of it I kept in a powder because I'll add it into like a tea or something if I want to have some extra
Mhm.
energy like in the afternoon. The other thing I like for energy in the afternoon is cordyceps mushrooms. That works really
Oh, I
good.
remember you talking
Cordyceps
about
is fantastic
that.
because you don't feel
Yeah.
racy or anything like it's not like caffeine at all. It helps your body hold and absorb more oxygen. So it
Oh,
gives you more
okay.
stamina and it just makes you feel like you can handle more. It's not like a caffeine or like a speed type of energy. It's just like almost like a natural energy. So cordyceps
Hmm.
is really my favorite go-to for energy, but if I'm really feeling like I could take a nap and I don't have time for a nap today, then I'll do the green Borneo. Or I'll have a coffee, but that's probably not the best option considering that, we try not to have our bodies be too acidic and stay more alkaline in order to prevent cancer. So,
Mhm. Right,
and I
right.
do a lot of coffee, which is probably not the best for me. And I
I
know, to be honest,
do. I'm an
if I
addict.
could give up coffee, I bet you that my headaches and my muscle tension would probably, it's the only thing I haven't really tried is fully giving up sugar or fully giving up coffee. And I don't know if I can do it. I know I need to probably at least take a break at some point in my life, but it's like that one vice that I just really don't want to give up. I so look forward to my caffeine. So,
Oh my, oh, listen to this. My oncologist, when I told him I love coffee, I think I drink too much. He's like, you know what? You can never drink too much coffee. It's
I know that's a
actually,
mindset too.
he said, anti-cancer for colon. He said it prevents colon cancer. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think you can probably have too much, but
Well, my hematologist when I was first diagnosed was like, "Go ahead, keep drinking coffee because it opens your capillaries. So if anything, that might help you." Well, later on, my new hematologist said that has nothing to do with your clots because your clots are I guess there's a difference between vascular and artery, and and so she's like,
Hmm.
it's not the same. She's like
Hmm.
but she's like, if you want to keep drinking coffee, it's fine. She's like, but it's just so you know, that has nothing to do with it. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But as soon as he told me that, I went from being an occasional coffee drinker to like, well, my hematologist said I need coffee, so
Right.
it was like
Right.
the perfect excuse to just go drink more Starbucks. And so I had a little bit of a Starbucks addiction for a while there, but I changed over to Green Joe because they're organic and they don't have all the high fructose, but I'm still getting a high amount of sugar. What I love about this one though is, see, on the Starbucks app, you can go to your drink and you can see how many grams of sugar in it. So like, holy crap, I
Right.
shouldn't have that today because there's like 47 grams of sugar in this. I should not do this. But at
Right.
the Green Joe, when I order online, you can't see how much sugar's in it. There's no nutritional facts, so it's like,
Oh, well.
just drinking my coffee. I don't know how many grams of sugar in it. I'm
Well,
sure it's probably equally as bad. At least it's not the high fructose version of the sugar, but it's still a lot of sugar.
right.
And it's still a lot of acidity because I don't just chug down my coffee. Like, I got this hours ago and it's still half full, and I will sip on it until probably 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock today. And that's why I don't eat breakfast, because I'm not hungry. I drink my coffee and I don't
Right.
I don't have much of an appetite until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And then I'll eat like a late lunch, and then I'll eat a late dinner, and then I have like a little bit of dark chocolate or something as a late night snack, and that's it for me. So those are
Mhm.
my 3 meals a day: lunch, dinner, and late night snack.
Right.
I don't
That's,
do the
that's
breakfast.
about what I do.
Yeah, it's
But
not the best, but
you could always switch to or do some decaf,
well,
like,
I on Instagram I saw this little ad for this Cairo brew thing that's like cocoa instead of coffee,
hmm.
and you brew it up just like coffee, and it does taste pretty good, but it does not have the same level of caffeine in it that I'm used to.
Hmm.
And so I've brewed it a few times, but then I end up always wanting to throw. And it's the same thing, like, I love chai. I make chai in the morning, but I
Hmm.
have to make it a dirty chai. I can't just do a regular chai because it just doesn't taste the same to me. So I love to have it a dirty chai. And
What's
so
dirty chai? Is that with coffee?
yeah, you make a chai and you put a shot of espresso in it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
It's
hadn't heard
it's
that.
been an addiction of mine for several years.
I love
Like, my
chai.
favorite drink ever is the dirty chai. It's so good. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure the fact that I have to have that shot of espresso in that chai, the fact that I'm, drinking a lot of I did do the iced coffee for a while because that's supposed to be less acidic, but that was actually giving me heartburn, where having,
Oh.
espresso and milk didn't do that to me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is the one vice that I know I probably am gonna have to try to give up for a little while, just to see if it does make a difference in the headaches and the muscle cramping and stuff, because it's the only thing I really haven't given up. So
Hmm. You might
everything
have to
else,
do a test.
yeah, I know. It's like I'm not really looking forward to it, but I sort of know in the back of my mind that I'm gonna have to give it a go here soon.
Hmm.
So we'll
Hmm.
see.
Maybe when things open up and there's not as much stress.
Yeah, when I can get
Mhm.
outside and get some exercise, that's when I'll be able to have a little more self-control. Right now, it's like the little vice of going to get a coffee in the morning is just like that one little thing I look forward to, that little sunshine in my day that kind of makes it worth continuing, when you're
Mhm.
not only in lockdown, but in snow lockdown, because I'm in Chicago and we're under, like, literally the pile of snow in my driveway next to my driveway is taller than me. I mean,
Oh
I'm short. I'm
my.
only 5'3", but still, it's like we have a butt ton of snow right now, and we're getting more this week, and we have negative temperatures. So it was like negative 14 with the wind chill this morning.
Oh, that's
So it's not like I'm
crazy.
getting outside anytime soon.
No.
So
Can you even don't won't your nose freeze off or something in that? I mean,
yeah, you can't stand out there very long at
frostbite?
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't- when we traditionally, before COVID, when we would get temperatures this low, they shut school down. They don't let kids stand at a bus stop when it's this cold.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, anything below, like, I think it's like -5, they won't have school open. So I mean, Chicagoans, we're kind of used to this. It's crazy. You'll still see people walking places in this type of weather. I would never walk anywhere in this. I don't care how bundled up I am. I'm not walking. But even
Mhm.
like in the when we first start winter in like December, November, when we're getting like 20s and 30s temperatures here, you'll see guys on their Harleys riding their motorcycles.
Ah, oh, it's nuts.
I don't know how they do it. I have a scooter, and when it's anything lower than like 65, 70 degrees, I'm freezing trying to ride that thing. Like, even if I
Oh,
am bundled up, it's like, oh my God, your skin gets so cold with the wind in your face. I cannot imagine being on a motorcycle when it's 30 something degrees outside. I don't know how these guys do it.
crazy.
Yeah. I guess, when you get conditioned to the cold, you're just conditioned to it. I mean, the snowmobile guys are out in it all the time, but they've got heated
Mhm.
hand warmers and stuff. But I'm sure some of the Harleys probably have that now too, but still, I just can't imagine.
Yeah,
It's
no.
so cold on the scooter when it's like 60s. I'm just like, oh my God, everything's, I feel like it's
Yeah,
dead of winter when I'm riding my scooter in that weather. So I can't even imagine. Too cold for me. I'm a warm weather girl though, and
yeah, me
I'm
too.
I was born at the beach and then I got stuck here at 4 years old. And I always thought, oh, as soon as I'm old enough, I'm moving away. And then I had kids and then they had friends in
Mhm.
school. And then I wanted them to grow up with their, same group of friends. And then I ended up here for another 25 years longer than I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully
Well, Florida
soon.
sounds good. Florida or Hawaii.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where we're leaning. I really wanted to go to Colorado, but Colorado's become so expensive that it's
Hmm.
like, it's more expensive than Chicago. But at least there's
Well,
something to live for there. Like, we don't have any scenery here. I don't know why the hell it's so expensive to be in the middle of the frozen tundra next to Lake Michigan, which has pretty much always got E. coli in it, and we can't even really swim in it. So, like, I don't know. I don't
as
know
soon
what
as
the big pizzazz is to be in Chicago.
yeah, you wonder why the cost of living is so high when there's not a whole lot to offer.
That's what I mean.
Doesn't
Yeah, I
have a
mean, we
whole
have
lot
a lot of
to
jobs. We do. We have a lot of jobs. We have really great
offer.
selection of food here because we have so many different ethnic neighborhoods. We got Chinatown and Greek Town and Little Italy. And I mean, we've just got
Mhm.
awesome food. That's the one thing everybody that moves away from Chicago says is they miss the food. And for sure, I'm sure I will.
Mhm.
But I don't go downtown and eat out a lot unless it's like a big family birthday or something like that. We don't
Mhm.
really go downtown that often. I do a lot of cooking at home anyway. So I
Mhm.
grow my
Mhm.
own food, can my own vegetables, make my own jellies. I made my own bruschetta and,
Mhm.
I do a lot of canning and a lot of growing of food and, and
That's
cooking.
great.
And so I enjoy it though. I just don't like the cleanup. I just wish I
Right.
had like a permanent, dish boy to just hang out and do all my dishes and be my sous chef while I cook. But
Yeah, that's the one downside. We've tried to, my husband loves growing vegetables and he's in the ag industry. And so he loves growing. Um, but our water bill, so we have
oh gosh,
like
yeah,
we
in
the
California, you
water,
guys have
it's,
restrictions on water too.
it's prohibitive. You can't even grow, we can't even have a little garden. I mean,
So,
it's 350 is our water bill every month.
ooh,
That is no yard. That is just 4 people,
that's
no
a
yard.
lot.
350.
Holy crap, that's
So
a lot.
yeah,
That's a
that's
way high
crazy.
water bill. So there's something you should check out on YouTube. There's oh, what is it? The Eden gardening method, I think is what it's called. It's like the Garden of Eden. Um, there's an old guy in Washington, I think. He's up in the mountains of either Washington or Oregon, and he has this method of growing where you don't have to irrigate. He's in a pretty dry area, but he has a really healthy, flourishing garden, and he does it by adding layers of mulch.
Oh,
Lots of layers of mulch to his.
oh, interesting.
So check that out because it's a really
Yeah,
cool method, and it looks like it works pretty well in very dry climates where you can get away with not having to water so often. And then you
definitely.
could also do rainwater catchment system too. I know you guys only really get May and June rain, but
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
but you could do that as well. That helps.
It's amazing. There's a town near me called Pacific Grove, and that's where the water company is based. They outlawed water catch systems.
Are you serious?
I'm I'm serious.
And how is
I,
that hurting them besides it takes away from their freaking profits?
that's all.
Oh,
It's crazy. My doctor told me
I
that
would be
because he
protesting that.
he
Oh,
wants to build the system, and like, nope, nope, can't do
that's
that.
like Nestle saying that water is not a human right, that we should all have to pay for water.
Right.
Like, are we going to tax oxygen next? Is that coming? I know we got the carbon tax. We're all carbon based, carbon based beings. So let's tax carbon. But my God, like, if that
Yeah.
doesn't point out and highlight the corruption, nothing
Yeah.
does. That just
I
says it
know.
all right there. You can't have a water catchment system. Are you
No.
freaking serious? Considering even the rain that we're getting is not exactly the cleanest. I mean, we've got
Mhm.
a lot of chemical compounds happening that are being found all
Mhm.
over the planet. Barium and strontium and all these different things are being found in our soil that's
Mhm.
coming from the rain, from all the
Right.
pollution. So
Yeah.
still have to filter it and you still have it's not wow, that's awful. $350 water bill,
Yeah. That's
and then they're going to outlaw you to be able to gather and collect your own water. Should that
yeah,
not just be a human right? I feel like that should be illegal.
it should be. I know it's
Ah,
how much power this water company has. It's nuts. Yeah.
I mean, that's a basic human need.
Mhm. Mhm.
Food,
I know.
water, oxygen. Like, how can you?
I
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Gotta
that
laugh.
just that just is so wrong in so many ways. Wow.
It is.
Crazy. Wow.
I
What a world we live
have, when you were talking about your friend with melanoma, I thought about this drug, the one I was talking about the other day, I can't pronounce it, but it's dipyridamole. And I was going to send you guys the excerpt from my book that talks about it, but I was like, it's so
You have a
many
book?
pages. What?
You have a
Yeah,
book?
this book. Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this woman cured
Oh, I
herself.
thought you wrote the book. I was like, wait a
Oh,
minute, that
no,
says Jane.
I read, no, I read it. I'm sorry. I read it.
That's okay. I was like, you wrote a book?
No,
How to starve
somebody,
cancer, though. That's awesome. I think that's the one that talks about sugar and the role in tumoral cancers, right?
it does. Yeah, she
Yeah.
does talk about that. But this letter that this doctor wrote, where he was researching this drug, and he talks about it curing melanoma. So I mean, I'll send it. I'll send the information. I don't know
Yeah.
if it would help your friend,
I
but
know. I was trying to talk to him right before he went to the emergency room and just kind of see where he's at with it. Like if he was at peace with the fact that he only had a month and he just wanted to
mhm.
be left alone and be in peace, like I respect that. But if he wanted to still fight, God, I have so many tools in my toolkit that I just wanted to be able to share with him. And I really hope that he's able to get his pain under control and get home so that maybe I can still share those with him. And I don't know if he's got enough time for us to make an impact or whatever, but I mean, to me, it's always worth fighting for life. And so if I can
Yeah,
help
you
him,
need
I would
to be the
love to
loop.
be able to give him any information that could help him. I know that fenbendazole can work too. Uh,
Oh,
I mean, I specifically looked up his type of cancer, malignant melanoma that's metastasized into the lymph nodes, and I found this whole list of stuff. There's some special diet he can do. There's the fenbendazole. There's just all these different things, that people have researched with this exact type of cancer and have had results with. And so I sent him the article, but I highly doubt he's been able to read it. He's been in so much pain. That he's really having a hard time. They were supposed to do a nerve block, but they couldn't because his white blood cell count was out of whack, and so they weren't able to do the nerve block for him. So he was just in a lot of pain, and he had to go to the hospital, and they gave him a couple shots of Dilaudid before he was able to get it under control, and then he just passed out and was snoring when my son's dad left. And I texted him a few times after that, but I haven't heard back from him. And it's been about
oh,
3 days now, so I don't know what's going on with him. I just keep praying every day. I pray for him.
I know. It is just
It's really
when
sad.
you read about this, there's all these things that have helped people, and they just get ignored. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
it's really,
difficult because everybody's so conditioned to believe in Western medicine. And so they just dive into whatever the doctor says to do because they're scared. That's how I felt when my son got diagnosed. I was terrified. I
oh
was
yeah,
so scared. I felt like I'd already lost my son. I mean, we weren't even close to that yet. Thank God we didn't lose him. But that's how it felt when we were going through it. And I just remember feeling so helpless and so scared. And I feel like when you're in that situation, sometimes you're just like, whatever the experts say, let's do that.
right,
And
yeah.
that's what you do. And even me being somebody who's a living advocate for natural medicine, when
Mhm.
I was faced with it with my own son, it was really hard. I could have said, no, Gabe, we're not going to do surgery. Let's just do naturopathic and try to fight the cancer that way.
Mhm.
But I was too scared to do that because it was around his carotid artery and around his
Mhm.
spinal cord, and it was growing. And I couldn't get him to stop smoking cigarettes, and I couldn't get him to stop eating sugar. So I
Mhm.
knew that my only option was to go through with the chemo and the surgery.
Right. Right.
We had to
Right.
do. And, I tried real hard to push for the herbs all along the way. And he did take some of them. And definitely, I would say the only thing that he will at least admit that helped him was the cannabis because it really helped him with the chemo symptoms.
Mhm.
It helped him get through the sores in his mouth and like all the digestive discomfort and, not having an appetite. He was able to take a few puffs off like a CBD vape. And
Mhm.
even sometimes he would do the THC if he was in a lot of pain, but most of the time he would just use the CBD vape and it would take away the nausea. It would help him have an appetite and it helped him a lot through the chemo process. But I was never able to like really give it a full test to say, here, just take the herbs and let's do the blushwood berry and let's do all these things that are for, the head and neck cancers and just see if they actually work, because when it's your body that's the experiment or your child's body that's being the experiment, it's really hard to put 100% faith in that,
Yes.
especially if your situation is pressing like what his was,
Right.
where it's like, if I
Mhm.
take this chance with him and I let it grow, it could cut off his airway, it could cut off his circulation to his brain, and there would be nothing we could do to stop it besides rush him to the ER and hope they could potentially free him up. But that tumor was growing so quickly, and had it have gotten any bigger, they might not have been able to do surgery. They
Mhm.
had to replace his vertebrae and put screws and bolts all in his
Oh my
neck.
gosh.
So, I mean, this kid's just a bionic boy by now. But,
Okay.
I mean, imagine if it had gone further. I mean, he might not have been able to even have a surgery. Who knows if he would even be able to move his neck? Luckily, now he can still turn left and right. I mean, he's a little stiff, but he still has a little bit of motion. It's not like he's totally stuck, you know?
Right.
But it's difficult when you're faced with it like that, when you have
Oh,
a pressing
sure.
issue. Like with our situation, we know we're going to have this the rest of our lives. So we have plenty of time to play with it and try
Mhm.
different remedies. And that's the blessing in disguise here, I think. Even though it
Yes.
is a lifelong thing, and nobody wants to be like, yeah, I have this terrible lifelong thing, that sucks. But at the same time, it's not so pressing that we have to do something right now, quick, before it grows and accelerates. It's not
Right.
such a fast moving thing like that. It's a slow progressing thing, and it gives us plenty of time to do all these experiments and see what's working and what isn't. And so again,
Mhm.
to me that's a blessing because I got a
Oh,
chance to see that turmeric made a big difference. I got a chance to see that CBD made a big difference, and I'm hoping we'll find more things like that as we go.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
I feel like at this point, the more I'm reading about the different things that these naturopathic doctors are suggesting for us, for you and for me and for different people, it's looking like, the natural plant flavonoids and terpenoids and, just natural plant material, these high antioxidant rich
Mhm.
plants, like the guavabana fruit or the green tea or, any of these things that are
Mhm.
really high in antioxidants, those are all the things that are most beneficial for us. And so I
Mhm.
feel like if we could just find a way to have a very nutrient dense, whole food kind of a diet that has a lot of these high antioxidant plants in there, that would probably
Mhm.
have a much better chance for survival than if we continue to eat the American diet, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I can't go back. I can't go back to
Well, I
that.
mean, the more I'm learning about all the supplements having basically the plant flavonoids and terpenoids,
Mm.
that's what we're trying to supplement our bodies with to help eliminate these issues. And that's what we're finding is actually killing the JAK2 mutation. It just makes
Mhm.
sense that maybe that's what we're lacking in our life. We just need more of a
Right.
whole plant-based diet. And,
Mhm.
so I would love to
Definitely.
move somewhere like Florida or Hawaii where I would have more access to year-round fruits and vegetables where I could do more of a
Mhm.
plant-based diet. Um,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So,
We'll
well,
get
I'll
there.
let you go enjoy your Valentine's. We're 2 hours into this, 2 hours and
Oh,
15 minutes into
thank
this already.
you.
It's so amazing to me how quick 2 hours goes by on these calls. Every one
I
of them has been like two
know.
to three hours, and it feels like it just goes by real quick.
Goes by so fast. I have so
Yeah.
much to talk about, you
There really
know.
is. And it really, I know you guys have all said that, like, when you're feeling kind of down, that having these calls really lifts you up. It does the same for me. It really does make me feel better about myself, about the day whenever I get a chance to connect with all of you guys and just, hear how things are going for you. And, even if just chit chatting with each other brings a little happiness to our day, I mean, it's a positive thing. So, like,
Yeah.
and if we can learn from each other too and find some new supplements or whatever, I mean, that's always awesome. But even just having this level of communication with you guys, the people that can relate to what I'm going through and know what I'm feeling and just all the crazy thoughts we get having, the knowledge that we have this disorder. I think it's just good to have folks to relate to. So I appreciate that we still got to have a full call, even though it's just the two of us.
You're not going to post this one, are you?
I mean, if you don't want me to, I don't have to, but I'm sure the other NPM patients will want to still hear, so I might still send it to at least them, if
Yeah,
nothing else.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I know I was going, wait a minute, maybe I need to filter what I say because I don't know who's gonna watch this.
well, I mean, same. That's, I mean, I think the beauty about these kind of situations is that we don't all have to agree on everything that we're talking about, but at least to know, to have that different perspective or, just another set of information to sort of, compare and contrast to what you know and what you've already been doing. I mean, it's just good, and, people don't have to agree on our take on vaccines or on, Dr. Mercola or any of that stuff to still maybe gain something from what we've talked about. So,
Yeah, I mean, maybe, they can glean something from it. So
I mean, even
that's
just that one little quote that you just pulled up about the lymphocytes, I mean, that made a big difference for me. That's huge knowledge for me because now I'm going to pay attention to that when I go get my blood work done. I
Mhm.
never knew to really watch for that. I was starting to get a little bit concerned that my white cells and my lymphocytes had been, varying a little bit. I was starting to worry that I'm like progressing, and I asked the hemo about it, and she was like, "No, we just know your bone marrow is overproducing. It's going to overproduce stuff. As long as it's not consistent and it's not way high, then we don't have to worry." She's like,
Mhm.
that's going to be normal for you. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it's good to know that because sometimes we get ourselves in a panic over things that, maybe aren't such a big deal. And so it's kind of
Mhm.
nice to know,
Right.
like, I mean, before our last call, I didn't know that you could have the JAK2 mutation but not have one of the blood disorders. I thought if you had JAK2, you had to have,
I did too.
yeah, I thought you had to have ET. Like, oh, you have JAK2, you definitely have a blood disorder. No, not always. There's people that have
Really?
JAK2 and don't have any blood disorder. And that
Oh
could
my
be that it
God.
hasn't manifested yet because, it does show up later in life. So it could be that they have JAK2 and they just haven't been diagnosed yet because they haven't had any symptoms. But then
Right.
again, it could be that you just have the mutation and it doesn't ever manifest into anything.
They don't have the triggering event. Like maybe
Right.
there's a triggering event or something,
Could be. Yeah. Yeah.
exposure to some toxin
Yeah.
that triggers it.
That and I think the combination of being exposed to certain toxins along with a high level of stress in the body, I think is what it is.
Mhm.
Because we're
Mhm.
faced with cancer and toxins and things every single day of our lives. Every single
Mhm.
day we go out into the world, we're exposed to those things. The difference is that our body at that time has the immunity to fight it off properly.
Mhm.
It's when we're under stress that our immune systems aren't as strong, and that's what makes us more susceptible to coming up with something like this or. So I mean, the doctor explained it to me that the way I got this was either through a rogue virus or through chemical exposure.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
either one of them, in my opinion, would have had to happen when I was under stress.
Right.
So
Right. Absolutely.
the
I
kids
think
and
that's
I got a really bad flu around the time that swine flu thing was going around back in
how.
like '04, I think it was, maybe something
Mhm.
like that. And we all had a really bad flu. Um,
Mhm.
and that was like 2 years before my diagnosis, 2 or 3 years before. No, it was several years before my diagnosis because I was diagnosed in 2009. Um, but still, I mean, it could have been that flu. I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
It could have been
I
that.
had a really bad illness too. I mean, I think my fever got up to 105.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how I survived that.
Yeah.
Um,
When I was a baby, I had real high fevers and ear infections all the time.
Me too.
And that was
Me-
before they did the tubes in the ears and stuff. So my
Mhm.
mom's always said that out of all her babies, I had the worst fevers and ear infections. She said that was like a
Mhm.
constant for me as a baby.
Me
So I
too.
wonder if that could have any correlation to the ET or the JAK2, like maybe it was something we were exposed to as infants and then, you
Mhm.
know, I don't
Right.
know. I mean, I always thought had to do with Camp Lejeune because we spent so much time on Camp Lejeune.
Mhm.
And I had a
Mhm.
swimming class where they taught me how to swim underwater at 6 months old. So,
Wow.
I was an infant when I learned how to swim, and it was at Camp Lejeune in their polluted water. So,
Aren't there more people too from
oh yeah.
that that have?
But most of them have kidney and liver cancers, leukemia. Um, there's a list. There's a list for the Camp Lejeune exposure, and it's benzite, I think, or benzene.
Benzene and
Ben,
toluene, I thought. Benzene and
yeah, I think
toluene.
it's benzene is what we were all exposed to, and so the benzene
Mhm.
in the water is what potentially gave us all. But
Mhm.
it's all cancers, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of pregnant women that had babies that had cancers. It was a
Oh,
lot of
oh.
second generation stuff. So it's hard to tell, we're all exposed to so many things, even if we don't live on a military base. So, but but anyway, I'll close with I had last night I kind of fell asleep listening to it. I didn't get to see the whole thing. And I'm going to screen share because I want to find it really quick for you. There was on YouTube, there was this Greg Braden special he was doing. I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Braden from the Gaia.
Mm-mm.
Hang on. It's two G's. Braden YouTube. Let's do that. Okay, here we go. This guy right here, Greg Braden. Um, there he is, official YouTube. Okay, so Greg, oops, sorry, I might get copyright stricken if I let some of this play, so I'm not going to do that. But the one I was watching last night, right here, I would, I think everybody should get to see this. It's really interesting information about the connection between your heart and your brain, and
Mm-hmm.
how when you can get those things in sync, that your body can be in more of a healing state. And he talks
Mm-hmm.
about illness and a lot of this kind of thing. It's an hour and 18 minutes, so it is a little bit long, but his other ones are really fascinating too. But this one last night, just it really resonated with me in a way that I felt like I needed to share it with everybody, that has the MPNs that are on our call, because there's definitely some information in here that I think can apply. Like last week, we were talking about um, Dr. Lisa Rankin and the mind over medicine, the
Mm-hmm.
power of the brain, and
Mm-hmm.
what we think about, and all that, and then also, Dr. Nelson in Pennsylvania was talking about the emotional connection to sickness, right? So when you're in toxic relationships, you can end up developing internal sicknesses because, your body knows something's not right, something's out of balance. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes illness can be signals that, either we're not treating our body or ourself the right way and we need to change like diet or, environment. And sometimes it's, we're not treating ourselves the right way emotionally. We're in
Mm-hmm.
situations that are emotionally toxic for us. And so our body starts to develop symptoms to show that. And so that's why I feel like, Western medicine is lacking, because we're not addressing any of that, you know.
Right. Right.
And so that's what I love about these kind of conversations, because we're actually addressing all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
this was just another addition to that whole string of thought, whatever you want to say. But what he
Yeah.
talks about in here is really pretty profound. I thought it was really interesting. Again, I fell asleep like a little more than halfway through it, so I have to go back and watch it again myself. But if you get a chance to check out Greg Braden on heart brain coherence,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic video.
Absolutely. And that's where the breathing might come into play with
He does
helping
speak about
slow
that. Absolutely. He talks
the
about the
deep
power of
breathing.
breath. Yeah. And that's
Mhm.
the other one that I like to watch on YouTube when it comes to breathing techniques is Wim Hof. Have you heard of him?
No, I
He's,
haven't.
yeah. Oh, darn. I should have left my screen share open. Wim Hof. It's WIM, and his last name is HOFF.
Mhm.
Wim Hof. So I want to say, was it History Channel or Discovery Channel had done that special on superhumans? Like the comic book guy was like doing that whole thing on the real superhumans. And Wim
Mhm.
Hof is one of them. That's how I got introduced to him, was seeing
Oh,
him on one of those specials. And he is
oh.
the guy who can go in like subarctic temperatures barefoot and not get frostbite and has like total control over his body temperature. He can sit in ice baths. And he suggests doing ice baths, by the way. It's supposed to do something really good for your immune system. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people recently I've heard talking about doing these ice baths or cold showers. And I actually
Mhm.
saw a lady on the MPN network. I was looking at one of their forums and she was saying that cold showers had taken away a lot of the neuropathy and like all the not neuropathy, but the tingling we get in the hands and feet, whatever that I can't think of
Oh.
the medical term for it. But she said it had really helped her with that and that the few days she missed the cold showers that she felt a difference and all that had started coming back. So she
Wow.
said that the cold showers made a big difference for her. So if it wasn't negative temperatures here, I probably would try it, but I'm a little bit of a wimp right now.
Yeah.
So I might wait till warmer weather to try the cold shower.
Yeah.
But I have heard that it makes significant difference, and it can. So
I think Mercola, that's where I first heard the whole thermo or
the
hypo,
cryogenic,
hypothermia thing
yeah,
from him.
the cold water therapy is,
Yeah.
yeah, they say that's
Hmm.
supposed to be really good for you. So.
Hmm.
But yeah, it activates all kinds of chemical responses in the body that help with boosting your immunity, I guess. So
Yeah. Who'd
yeah,
have known? Who'd have thought? That's
yeah.
amazing.
But Wim Hof talks a lot about that, and he has some really cool breathing methods. I've tried a couple of his breathing techniques. The one of them you do like I think it's like 45 long in through the nose, out through the mouth, like real deep belly breaths, right?
Hmm.
And you do like 45 of those, and after you've done like 45 of those back to back, and he tells you exactly when to breathe, when he like has a
Hmm.
whole video that tells you when to breathe in and out. And so you do that, and then you hold your breath. And it's
Hmm.
amazing because after you've taken that many fully deep breaths in and out, you can hold your breath for an incredible amount of time.
Really?
I was
Wow.
so astonished at how long I was able to hold my breath. Like I thought there's no way I'm going to make it this
Mhm.
full minute. And I made it. No problem. Like it didn't even feel like real stressful like because I had flooded my body full of so much oxygen during the breathing technique that when it came to the hold part of it, it was very euphoric. Like my whole body was tingling all over and I was a little nervous that I was going to pass out, but I didn't. And it just was a really cool experience. So like I've wanted to do more of his breath work because he's got some really cool videos on different breath work techniques you can do. So that one was pretty
Them
fun.
out. That sounds
Yeah.
really.
You feel so good after just taking those deep breaths in and out. And I've now learned that like when I start to feel like, that like tension in your chest when you're like stressing out a little bit, I just start real deep in through the nose and real deep
Mhm.
out through the mouth. And I just try to focus on the breathing. And it's amazing how well it works sometimes to just take your mind out of you know, that fear
Mhm.
place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does work really well. I like it. But yeah, I definitely want to dig a little deeper into the Wim Hof library over
Mhm.
there because he's got some cool stuff. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
Well,
well,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much, Jessica, for your time and
Oh,
all
of
your
course.
amazing
Thank you for being the
information.
only one to come on the call today.
Thank you. I wouldn't have, I wanted to make sure I was here, and I just thank you for spending the time with me. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Of
I
course.
learned so much from you. You're just a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, you
And
too. You've got a lot of great information as well. I love that we all have sort of like different areas of expertise because when we all come together, it's really incredible. I think for anybody who's going through this, it's like between
yeah.
all of us, we have a pretty good wealth of knowledge. So, yeah, I'm excited to have all of you guys. It's really cool for me to like see this come full circle because before it was just people calling me. And like I did
Mhm.
with you. I spent like an hour or two on the phone with you and I give
Yeah.
people advice about cannabis and like what I've been doing, but like it got to a point where it was like, man, I've met so many of you guys. It would be really cool if we could all talk to each other. And now, luckily, through
Mhm.
technology, we're able to do that. So it's just really
Yeah.
cool and exciting that I can bring everybody I've met over the last 2 years together because I just can't even tell you how many people have reached out to me. It's really quite
Mhm.
amazing. So
Yeah. Well,
it's
thank
given
you
me a really
so
cool
much.
sense of community. And you're absolutely welcome. And I really appreciate you being a part of it too, because you've brought a lot of really good info. So you've given me a ton to research. I love it.
Oh, good. Well, I'll try to bring some more. I kind of took a break. I
It
just
gets
kind of tuned out.
exhausting. Yeah, you
But
got to do it when you feel motivated. I understand.
I'm motivated now. So you've given me a ton of info. I'm gonna look into it, and
Cool.
I hope you have an amazing Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you too. You too. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it, especially with it being a holiday. So, yeah.
Very important stuff. So,
Well, I'm going to try to do this. I was going to say probably about every 3 to 4 weeks. I think will probably be
mhm,
good because that'll give us all time to sort of like have an update for the next call, because most of us only get tested every 6 weeks or, every 3 months. So, I think if
mhm,
to do it any more than that doesn't really give us a lot of time to research and do different stuff in between. So,
right.
and everybody sort of has a different schedule. So I'm
Mhm,
trying to sort make it accessible to everyone. And
mhm,
not everybody's schedule works, so we might have to do some different times and try a couple different days here and there. But I want to still try to keep at least consistency meeting with you guys. Like I said, maybe every 3 to 4 weeks, and that way we can all sort of share our updates and
mhm.
just see how things are going. So
That's perfect. Yeah. Whatever schedule works for everybody else, I'll make it work.
cool. Are
Yeah.
Saturdays okay for you?
Yes. Yeah. Saturdays are fine.
Okay. I know Lacey said she can't, Sundays are tough for her because she works in the morning. And because you guys are on the West Coast, you guys are all a couple hours behind us.
Mhm,
So, or behind me and some of the East Coast folks we have anyway. So we might try to do a Saturday instead. I got to make sure that works for everybody
sure.
else too, but just so she can get a chance to be on one of them. And then same thing with Dr. Nelson. I'm going to have to do some, rearranging of our schedule to make sure she can be available for those too, because I know she's very active in her church. And so Sundays aren't good for
Mhm.
her because she's there late in the day. So we'll have to
I
figure
guess
out. Yeah, maybe
totally
we'll do
guess
the next one on like a Saturday just so those two ladies can be present. And
that.
then
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm all for that. Definitely.
cool.
Definitely.
All right. Well, it was great chatting with you. Thank you so much. And
Oh,
I
thank
look
you,
forward.
Jessica.
Yeah, I look forward to our next one for sure. And if you want to shoot me an email with any info, I'll try to find that article about the diet for you.
Okay.
That I was
Yeah.
talking about because I think that's important for all of us to look at because like we've all tried to go on keto. My God, everybody wants to like lose a couple pounds, and feel better. But at the same time, and there's a lot of healing properties to having your body go into a state of ketosis. Like there's some really miraculous
Mhm,
stuff that can happen healing wise. So, I mean, it
mhm,
definitely seems like it would be a really good thing to do, but I think we have to have some level of caution knowing that if leukemia can feed off of protein, I don't know for sure that that means ours can, but if it does, then we might not want to do keto because that could be dangerous. So,
right.
but
Right.
hopefully we'll find an expert to answer that question for us one of these days.
Yeah. That would be nice.
That would be wonderful. So,
Well,
all
take
right.
care.
You
Thank you.
too, of course, as always. Have a great weekend.
I will. You too.
All
Bye,
right. Bye.
Jen.